Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where, as always, we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I'm your host, Uncivil Law, a licensed attorney in Texas, Virginia, and before the U.S. Supreme Court. As always, I hope you're having a great day. For today's story, we continue our coverage of the school shooting in the Crumbley case. This is a school shooting that occurred where Ethan Crumbley committed a shooting that killed several people. The parents are both on trial for manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, with the trials being held separately, and the mother's trial is being held first. So far, we've heard evidence relating to the mother as it relates to the school shooting itself, about what occurred that day, because, of course, it is a murder trial, and we do have to prove the murder occurred, so we've heard testimony relating to that. We've also heard testimony relating to the mother's knowledge of her son's ability to use firearms, his proclivity with firearms, his by going to the range and seeing him use the firearms, that she had knowledge of how the firearms were used, and otherwise would have the ability to use them in a way that would make work. And so, all the rest of those things. So yeah, so that is sort of what's going on, and hope you're all having a great day. So, anyways, yeah, we've heard, and then most recently we heard information relating to the text messages between the parents during the time of the shooting, and we also heard testimony relating to the mother's concern over her horse's condition, which is obviously being used to contrast her lack of care about her son. That she was caring more about her horse than her own child. That's the idea we're trying to prove. So we are sort of on our way. If you believe you haven't heard any evidence that would show the mother is guilty of manslaughter, you are incorrect. You maybe perhaps that you those are two. Maybe you're just using your words incorrectly. But evidence that supports the proposition has definitely been presented. Whether or not you're convinced beyond a reasonable doubt is a whole other set of concerns. But to say there's no evidence that supports the charge is not fair and just not true. But we are still waiting for other evidence to come in, of course. I don't believe that they've proven guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Not by any means. I'm still waiting to hear more. I'm still, of course, undecided on the issue, sort of where I had problems with the Court of Appeals on the idea that the mother could be held responsible because it was reasonably foreseeable. We certainly have not really heard sufficient testimony at this point as to that element. So there's still a long way to go. But to say that we haven't heard any evidence that doesn't show manslaughter is an absurd proposition. We've definitely heard testimony that makes it more likely, but we have not yet pressed the threshold. The court is supposed to resume at any second. I'm just waiting to see if the thing will turn back on. Yeah, the defense attorney also apparently defended Larry Nassar. So, okay. Name one thing that proves manslaughter. What sense of the word prove do you mean? Again, evidence that what do you mean? I don't have any one piece of evidence that proves manslaughter. That's not how evidence works. I've shown you the evidence that helps to further the proposition. We haven't gone to proof beyond a reasonable doubt. If you want one piece of evidence, her taking the child to this shooting range is a piece of evidence. The fact that the firearm was found, the fact that the cable lock was not in its original packaging is a piece of evidence. The fact the safe had not been reset from the manufacturer default is a piece of evidence. The school shooting itself is a piece of evidence. What the hell are you talking about? Convictable? We haven't reached that threshold yet. We haven't gone there yet. I never said she was convictable. I just said it was ridiculous to say there's no evidence that supports manslaughter because it's ridiculous. We're a long way from proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but we have evidence that supports the proposition. The prosecution is building its case. Buying the gun is evidence. That's true. That's certainly true. Yeah, buying the gun is evidence. They bought the murder weapon. That's evidence of something. Yeah, there's plenty of evidence. I never said I was convinced beyond a reasonable doubt, but to suggest it's not evidence in support of the proposition is absurd. Yeah. Thou shalt not strawman the argument. Exactly. ATF admitted the code was reset 000 by PD. That's not what I heard. I don't remember him saying that. I don't remember him saying that. Also, how would he possibly know that? I'll tell you what. Let's make a deal. How about this? How about you show me where in the testimony he said that the PD reset the safe to 000. If you can find that clip or point me to the right part of the testimony, then I'm certainly happy to consider it. Can you actually show me the timestamp in the video? You have to give me a link to the relevant video that you're using, and you have to give me a timestamp where he says that he knows or is aware that the PD reset the safe to 000. If you can show me that, I'd be happy to consider it. How about that? It doesn't. The defense lawyer was just trying to allude to that. Yeah, that's what I said. That's why I challenged him, because that's what he said. He said ATF guy admitted the code was reset to 000 by PD. It's like, I don't remember that. If you can point me to that, I'd be happy to consider it, because if I missed something, I want to get it. But it's like, I don't remember him saying that. Did they start earlier? No, they said they'd come back at 12:45. They're right on time. Thank you for saying I did a great job with Ty yesterday. I certainly tried to handle it as professionally as I could while trying to provide as much useful advice as strongly as I thought I could get away with within the context, because I didn't want to scare him off or anything, so I wanted to treat him with respect and try. Yeah, so I think I handled the balance well and sort of that, because I think there's important things he should hear, and so I certainly did my best to illuminate those things in a way that I thought he might not reject completely out of hand. Now, whether or not I succeeded in my goal is a whole nother set of problems, but I wanted to help provide him some help that I think would be useful to him. So the degree to which he'll dismiss me or ignore me, sort of out of my control, but I think I did my best within the context of the interview to try to emphasize my points. What happened with the new mic arm? It just isn't really working for me. Just isn't really the right arm for me. I got this low profile mic arm from Elgato, and it's just not really. It looks cool. It looks cool on the images, but when you got it in the real world, it's just kind of not really. It's kind of not really working. The way the boom arm sits, the way it's low, it's like my arm bangs into it and stuff. It's just not working for me. It's just not working for me. But I think they'll follow through with retrying Ty unless he gets lawyers to put up enough fight to make them stop. Yes, I think he should get some lawyers and throw up some stuff to make it more painful to the prosecution. All right, let's listen. No, still have no audio from the court. It's not me. There we go. The road boom arm, the PSA, or the PSA. It's a classic one. But we'll see how this Elgato one's. The road one to me just looks janky. It certainly has a wide reputation, but it just looks janky. The Elgato looks much better, and they're the same price. So we'll see if I got the other Elgato coming from UPS today. So we'll get the other Elgatos coming from UPS or from Amazon today. So we'll try that, and if that doesn't work, then I guess we'll try something else. We'll try covering the border issue between Texas and the Supreme Court. I just haven't had time. It's been busy, man.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to now direct your attention to Exhibit 119. We spent a lot of time. Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. Just for the record, so the jury knows, we have paralegal Manley Nell at table to help with the exhibits.
Okay. Because once again, he does not trust me with glitter.
This is true. This is true. Sir, we spent some time talking about the background of the Crumbley house. So we're going to talk now about November the 30th, 2021. And you stated that you were able to put together sort of a digital footprint from that day.
Correct.
Okay. So Exhibit 119, which has been admitted, this is the Oxford High School surveillance video from when the defendant's son was dropped off. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you will determine that he was dropped off by James Crumbley at 7:46 a.m.?
That's correct.
Okay. We will determine the time that Jennifer Crumbley got to her place of employment that day.
A little after 9 in the morning.
It's Exhibit 120.
We have no objection to that.
Thank you. Sir, this is a screenshot from surveillance footage of her employer from November the 30th, 2021. And that's Jennifer Crumbley on November 30th, 2021, entering that building at 9:04 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. Now, shortly after she arrived, did she receive a phone call from the school?
Yes, she did.
Exhibit 121.
We have no objection.
121's admitted.
And this is a snippet from her phone log, would that be correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so November the 30th, 2021 at 9:24 a.m. was a missed phone call, and that's from Oxford High School.
That's correct.
Okay. And she called the school back at 9:27 a.m., is that right?
That's correct.
And they had a 5-minute and 43-second conversation?
Correct.
Okay. Now, did she receive a text shortly after that phone call?
Yes.
Right, this is Exhibit 122 and 123.
Except for Mr. Hopkins. I have no objection to 122 or 123.
122 and 123.
So 122, this is the text message found on her phone from an individual. It ended up being her son's school counselor at Oxford High School.
Correct.
Okay, and this is a picture of what we'll call an altered math worksheet at 9:31 a.m.
Correct.
All right, and if you were to click on that link, this would come.
Correct.
Okay. And then did she also receive an email with the original math worksheet?
That's correct.
All right, this is Exhibit 124.
No objection.
And this email,
124's admitted.
thank you. That was shortly thereafter. And the image in the email was in fact Exhibit 74, which was the math worksheet that her son created on November the 30th.
Correct.
Okay. So she had this information about 9:30 in the morning on November the 30th.
Correct.
Okay. Did Jennifer contact James right after that?
Yes, she did.
Exhibit 125.
No objection.
Yes, the son has already been convicted.
So
He's currently appealing his
Facebook
sentence.
message chat, the one that was deleted from Jennifer's phone. Blue is Jennifer Crumbley, is that correct?
That is correct.
And green will be James Crumbley.
That's correct.
Okay. So at 9:33 a.m., what did Jennifer write to James?
Call now with now in all caps, emergency. And then she texted again, less than 2 minutes later, emergency.
Okay. And she sent these two pictures, both the original and the altered worksheet to James?
That's correct.
And this is at 9:38 a.m.?
Correct.
What was James's response at 9:44?
James responded with, my God, WTF.
What is it?
WTF, what the fuck?
Okay.
Excuse me. Then responds, vet not here yet. It's McElmurray for Kira's horse, still waiting on vet.
And we already talked about that they were concerned over one of their horse's medical issues.
Correct.
Okay.
He's appealing his sentence,
First
yes.
response at 9:50.
She responded, he said he was distraught about last night.
And James's response to that?
We talked about it this morning, and then he asked her, you talked to him?
Okay. And that's 9:51. And what was Jennifer's response?
6 minutes later, she texted, can you call?
Did Jennifer leave her work and head to the school?
Yes, she did.
He got a life sentence without the possibility
did
of
Jennifer
parole.
Crumbley also text this picture, Exhibit 74, to anybody else at that time?
I think, strictly speaking, he might have gotten multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole, but I'm not sure what the difference
There's
is.
no objection.
Now, she sent this picture, this text, to Andrew Smith at 10:05 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. Did you learn who Andrew Smith was?
Yes, I did.
And that was her boss?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And what did she text with the caption on this picture?
She said, I have to go to my kid's school. Counselor just called, and this is what I'm dealing with. I'll be back 11:30 to 12 at the latest.
And did she leave her employment?
Yes, she did.
Okay. This is 127.
No objection.
Okay, this is her leaving at 10:06.
Yes.
You want to go back to Exhibit 125 briefly? Skip over it. She wrote, can you call at 9:57, and then what did she write?
She wrote, heading to his school, I'm very concerned.
Okay, so at 10:04, she wrote, heading to his school, and I'm very concerned. At 10:05, she sent that picture right here to Mr. Smith.
Correct.
At 10:06, she walked out the door to the building.
Correct.
Okay. Did James and Jennifer Crumbley have a phone conversation at this point?
Yes, they did.
Okay, this is 128.
No objection.
And sir, this
Why is Jennifer on trial?
from
Jennifer's on trial for involuntary
call
manslaughter.
log found on Jennifer Crumbley's cell phone. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, well, first she got a phone call from the school. This is a phone call to the school counselor at 10:07 a.m.
That's correct.
That's a 40-second call.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm sorry, that was Exhibit 121, not 128.
I'm
I can't speak to why he's
sorry, I
appealing.
said
That's
121.
121.
Okay, and Your
That's
Honor,
part of the call.
I would just ask that the witness answer questions instead of the prosecutor stating essentially all the information as he goes along.
Just
Okay,
trying to
so
move
I
through.
guess it's the objections leading.
Leading.
I'll rephrase. All right, 128.
No objection?
Did James and Jennifer have a phone conversation after this?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Well, first, this is part of Exhibit 125. What time is this?
This is at 10:12,
Okay, and then what did she write?
heading to a school.
Okay. And here's Exhibit 128 from James Crumbley's call log. What is this?
It's a call to Jennifer at 10:29 a.m.
Okay. So at 10:29 a.m. they have a 7.
I can't speak to his motivation of why he's appealing.
That's correct.
I suppose he doesn't really have anything to lose by
James
appealing.
and Jennifer Crumbley arrive at the Oxford High School?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And approximately what time do they arrive?
It was around 10:20, somewhere around there, I believe.
Okay, if I showed you a timeline that indicated 10:37 arrival, would that sound right?
Yes, I apologize. Yes,
That's fine.
yes.
Okay. Now, we had discussed this portion of the case at a previous hearing, and you had indicated they had arrived in one car and left in one car. Did you find that to be accurate?
No, it was inaccurate.
Okay, so tell me what happened.
It was, so the video system that they have only starts recording when there's enough motion to save space on the system. So
I believe
far away from
Crumbley
the camera
pled
to pick
guilty
up.
if memory
When
serves.
I initially saw them, all of a sudden they just appeared in front of one of the cars, so I assumed that they had come together,
Okay. And what did you come to find out?
that they had drove separately.
Okay. So Exhibit 129 is a portion of the Oxford High School surveillance video that depicts their arrival and the period of time they were inside for that meeting with the counselor. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. People moved them at 129.
I have no objection, but I'm just wondering if it's the actual video that's the.
Correct.
That's the exhibit. Okay, no objection, thank you.
129 is in the
So there's a timestamp at the bottom. I want to make sure we see this. 10:36 a.m. and it's November 30th, 2021.
That's correct.
Okay. And let us know, please, when you see either the defendant or her husband.
The one vehicle is already backed in, and then there they are, walking up.
They as the defendant and her husband
Yes,
in the magnified area?
correct, yes.
What's this portion of the video depict?
Them coming into the school,
Well, what area of the school?
the front by where the offices are.
Okay. This is 10:39 a.m.
Correct.
What portion of the school is this?
Looks like the front office of the school.
Now, this time right here, that's a broken clock, correct?
It is correct, it never
Okay.
changes.
So this is 10:40 a.m.
Correct.
Broken digital clock. That's nice.
Counseling office.
I'm sorry?
They're in the counseling office, sorry.
Did you come to learn who this person was, who greeted them?
Yes,
Who's that?
Sean Hopkins,
Okay. He's the counselor at the Oxford High School?
that's correct.
Or one of the counselors? I should
One of
say.
the counselors, yes.
The time skips a little bit. This is now 10:52 a.m. What do you see in this portion?
That's the shooter coming out of the Mr. Hopkins' office.
With the red backpack?
Correct,
So they walked in at 10:41 and the shooter walked out at 10:52?
correct.
10:53. Who do you see?
That's James and Jennifer Crumbley coming out of the Mr. Hopkins' office.
Now, there was something in his hand here. What is that? If you can tell.
I wasn't able to tell what that is.
Okay. Okay, Jennifer Crumbley has a piece of paper in her hand.
Yes, she does.
Did she have that walking into the counselor's office?
No, she did not.
And then right there, she handed that piece of paper to James Crumbley.
Correct.
Thank you for the nice compliment about my interview with Tucker. I appreciate it.
So this is 10:54 and almost 10:55 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. Did you see James and Jennifer Crumbley at the top of the screen walking
Yes.
to the car?
Yeah, they're at the top of the screen coming
Okay.
from the school.
Thank you. What are we seeing in this scene right here?
One of their vehicles is leaving right there, the black one. And in that third row on the far right, the other car should be leaving shortly now.
Okay. Okay. This is one of the Crumbley vehicles?
Yes, it is.
All right, and this is 10:57, about 10:58,
Correct.
okay? So we saw them walk in at 10:41 to the office. There's some left at 10:52. is that right?
Correct.
And then we saw them leave the parking lot here at 10:57, 10:58.
That's correct.
Okay. So how long total, if you know, were they in the counselor's office?
It was about 12 minutes.
What's the first thing that Jennifer Crumbley did on her phone or social media after that meeting?
She sent a message to Kira Penick.
Okay, this is 1:30.
We have no objection?
And Dennis agreed.
So this is a screenshot,
Correct.
is that right? Okay. And these were taken from Kira Penick's phone.
That's correct.
Okay. So the icon there, the picture on the horse, this is Jennifer Crumbley's words, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and what did she write at 10:58 a.m.?
Kay, I'll bring some out later. Just had to get my son's school, go to my son's school, and meet his counselor. Shit day.
And then Kira's response?
Oh man, everything okay? Do you still want to do lesson tonight?
And then what did Jennifer respond to that?
Yeah, I still plan on doing the lesson. Everything's okay. He's just having a hard time after losing Tank, his friend going away to a treatment facility, and who knows what else. But he was caught drawing this on his math assignment today.
And then this is Exhibit 74, the math drawing that she was sent.
Correct.
And then what did Jennifer write in this post, or in this message?
As long as I can get out there early enough, because I had to leave work for an hour, and I have a meeting in Southfield at 3, but I should be done with that by 4. I plan on being there. Plus, the vet said it's better for him to move around to keep his circulation going while he's dealing with mud fever. Good times.
She's talking about her horse, right?
Correct.
Okay. And when she said, I had to leave work for an hour, she's talking about when the school called her for that meeting.
That's correct.
And what was the response at 1:26 a.m.?
She's,
Oh, I'm sorry, if you can read that.
it's, Kira responded with, OMG, oh my God, he needs some horse therapy. I bet he, and then it cuts off.
Okay, that's fine. The rest of these will be in through Kira later on. What's the first thing that James does when he leaves the meeting?
Starts door dashing.
This is 131.
No objection.
131. So what are we looking at right here?
That was a response from a search warrant served to DoorDash.
Okay. So we have not just the 30th, but we also have the 29th. I'm going to direct you to the first DoorDash pickup, November 30th, 21, at 11 a.m. Is that right?
Correct, that's when he checks in.
Okay. So that was about 4 minutes or so, 3 minutes after he left the parking lot?
That's correct.
And Jennifer's text to Kira was about 2 minutes after she left
That's
the parking
correct.
lot?
Yep.
Did Jennifer go back to work?
Yes, she did.
All right. Here's 132.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read fast. No objection.
132 is admitted.
Thank you. And this is what?
Her re-entering her place of employment 11:24 a.m.
Okay. And that's November 30th?
Correct.
Going back to Exhibit 130. First, what's the next thing she does, either on her phone or social media accounts after 11:24?
I'm sorry.
If you recall, what's the first thing that she does after 11:24 on either her phone or her social media account?
I don't recall.
Well, that's fine. We have Exhibit 130 already admitted. So 11:26 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. So you read the very top line of that OMG needs horse therapy.
Correct.
This is at 11:26 a.m. So she received this 2 minutes after she walked in the door at her employment.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead and read that.
Says, OMG, he needs some horse therapy. I bet he would love Mo. Whatever works for you, just let me know. I only have Bella's lesson tonight at 5:30, so anytime after her lesson is fine.
They really like the horses,
Yeah,
huh?
Crumbley right
They
now.
really like the
Jennifer responded
horses.
with, okay, yeah, well, he'll be coming with me tonight. James is working. He can't be left alone.
From the context of this conversation, did you take it that he was referring to her son?
Yes, correct.
And what did Kira write in response?
Does he want to ride?
And her response?
Jennifer responded, I don't know. Maybe brush a small horse so he's not intimidated, LOL.
And then Kira?
Kira responds with, Mo would be perfect. And then Jennifer responds with, okay.
Okay.
Kira then goes on to say, make it a family event. Coming out to the barn, really though, I've seen some amazing things done with horses, with kids.
Thank you. Now, did Jennifer Crumbley text her son after that school meeting?
Yes, she did.
Okay. This is 133.
I'm sorry, just,
Yeah, probably not so much horses anymore, I guess.
I have no
I
objection.
don't think they have a lot of equestrian programs in prisons. Yeah.
Now, this is the same text thread that we had referred to earlier, found on Jennifer Crumbley's phone between, well, this was on the shooter's phone. No, I'm sorry.
Maybe she's lucky she can get
Yes,
some sort of work assignment to
Correct,
take
yes.
care of the police's
Okay.
horses or something. I don't know.
Green is Jennifer Crumbley, blue is her son.
Probably not
Correct.
though.
Okay. Tell us what she wrote to him at 12:21 p.m. on November the 30th.
She asked, you okay? And then he responds shortly after that, yeah, I just got back from lunch.
Okay, and what did she say?
About 60 minutes later, she says, you know you can talk to us and we won't judge.
And his response to that at 12:42 p.m.
At 12:42, he says, I care, I know, thank you, I'm sorry for that, I love you.
Now, we'll introduce the rest of the thread. Did she respond to that?
No, not immediately, no.
When did she respond to it?
After the shooting started.
After the shooting was made public?
Yes.
How many minutes later, if you know?
Over a half an hour.
Really?
Now, you're the investigator who pulled the footage, you reviewed the footage, and you know the timeline of the shooting, the day of the event.
Correct.
Okay. And so at 12:42
You have horses in Texas prisons?
You know
Who
that
knew?
a few minutes before the shooter went into the boys' bathroom outside of 258, classroom 258, and began to load his firearm.
That's correct.
And he emerged at 12:51 p.m.
That's correct.
You have prison rodeos?
Now, what's the first relevant
Maybe.
event in either James or Jennifer's phone or email or social media accounts after 12:42 p.m.?
An alert was sent to, an email was sent to James's phone from the high school.
This is 134.
No objection?
134 is admitted.
Thank you. This is an email from Oxford Community Schools sent to James Crumbley's email address at 1:09 p.m.
Correct.
And that's, to your knowledge, the active shooter alert that went out to all parents in the district?
That's correct.
Now, when James received this, he was still making DoorDash deliveries?
Yes, he was.
Were you able to pull location history from his device?
Yes, correct. Yes.
This is 113, oh, sorry, 136.
No objection?
Is this 135 or 137?
136, Judge. We skipped 135.
No
Oh, wait.
objection?
136.
Yeah, I have no objection to 136.
136,
And
okay.
then, are you gonna do 135?
No, we're skipping 135.
You're skipping, okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep my numbers straight.
136 is admitted.
Thank you, Judge. So this is location data from his email, the email that he received the active shooter alert,
Correct.
November 30th, 2021, and this is at what time?
This is at 1:13 p.m.
Okay. And where is this?
This is at the Meyer. He's in the parking lot of the Meyer.
Prison rodeos are big in Huntsville.
And that's the.
I need to go to myself to go to a prison rodeo,
Yes.
man. That's what I need in my life.
Yes,
Okay, so that was the reunification location for all parents.
correct.
Okay. Did he stay there?
No, he did not.
Okay. How long was he there?
I think just a matter of minutes.
And did he call Jennifer?
I'm learning all kinds of interesting things about my state right now.
This is exhibit 137.
No objection?
137.
So all I have to do is get convicted of a crime,
Call James.
and then I can go, and then I can participate in the prison rodeo.
2021.
Hey, that sounds pretty good,
1:15
man.
PM. He called Jennifer Crumbley.
That's correct.
Okay. And that was how long? Phone call?
Just less than a minute.
Okay. And based upon your analysis of his GPS locations, where was he at when he made the phone call?
He was still in the Meyer lot, I believe.
Still in the mark. Okay. Now, did you find out that Jennifer Crumbley left her work around that time?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Exhibit 138 is a surveillance video of Jennifer Crumbley leaving work. Objection?
No objection.
138 is admitted.
So this is 1:18 p.m.?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so this is after the active shooter alert went out at 1:09 and after she was on the phone with her husband.
Correct.
Civilians versus prisoners. Prison rodeo. This Sunday. We'll sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Sir, did it appear from your analysis that Jennifer and James Crumbley spoke on the phone after she left work?
Yes, she did.
1:39.
I apologize, just really quick. 138 was the video we just saw. 139, we have no objection to.
139 is admitted.
And, okay, both were admitted, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's the call log off of James Crumbley's phone. November 30th, 2021, 1:19 p.m. And how long did they speak for?
They spoke for a little over 10 minutes.
Okay, when I say they, I should be clear.
James and Jennifer.
Thank you. Okay. Could you tell that while she was on the phone with James Crumbley, did she send any messages?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Do you recall who she sent a message to?
I believe it was Andy Smith she sent a message to.
Do you know who else she sent a message to?
I don't recall. I know
Did she
there's no-
message her son?
Yes, she did. I apologize. Yes, yes.
This is 140. This is location data.
No objection?
140 submitted.
Thank you. 140, this is GPS location data for James Crumbley. This is 1:20 p.m.
Correct.
Okay, November the 30th, and this is at their home at 112 East in Oxford?
Piney Street, yes.
Okay, so just to back up, just to make sure we're clear, James Crumbley received the active alert email at 1:09.
Correct.
He called Jennifer Crumbley at 1:15 while he was at the Meyer parking lot,
Correct.
and he leaves the Meyer parking lot and he's home at least 1:20.
I do have the hat.
Correct.
That's true.
Okay. And they had a 10-minute phone call that began at 1:19 p.m. That indicates to you that they're still on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. This is 141.
No objection?
141 submitted.
Okay, so about this time of the day, could you tell if Jennifer was on the move?
Yes, she was.
Okay, so this is what time?
This is at 1:20 p.m.
Okay, and this is at her location of her employment,
Yeah,
correct?
Telegraph at Square Lake,
Okay.
south of here.
So 142.
No objection?
142 is submitted.
So you said that while she was on the phone with her husband, she texted her son?
Yes, she did.
This is 142.
Okay, I'm sorry, hang on. Let me just pull it up real quick, I'm so sorry. Okay, sorry, thank you. Sorry, thank you.
November 30th, 2021, at 1:18 p.m., did she respond to the message that he sent her at 12:42?
Yes.
What did she write?
She said, "I love you too."
Okay.
Then
Then,
says, immediately after that, "You okay?" Then 4 minutes later, she says, "Ethan, don't do it."
that was at 1:22 p.m.
Yes, it was.
That was after James Crumbley was at their home, 112
Correct.
East in Oxford.
That's correct.
That's while she was on the phone with him.
Correct.
You said she sent a message to her boss, Mr. Smith.
Yes, she did.
We'll go back to exhibit 126. What did she write him at 1:23 p.m.?
123, she texts, "The gun is gone, and so are the bullets."
And then what did he respond?
He responds with, "I'm praying everything is okay." And Jennifer says, "OMG," or "Oh my God, Andy, he's going to kill himself. He must be the shooter."
So that's right a minute after she wrote to her son, "Don't do it."
Correct.
And that's while she's on the phone with her husband.
That's correct.
Did you come to find out that James Crumbley called 911 that day?
Yes, he did.
Was that at 1:22 or 1:20, or was it later?
It was later.
And was it before or after they had this text message conversation?
It's after.
Phone call.
After.
Okay. So in fact, did you find that James Crumbley called 911 at 1:34 p.m.?
That's correct.
That's a pretty long time to wait to call 911.
It's the actual call. No, no objection, thank you.
143 is submitted.
So just so council knows, it's all listed in the exhibit list. It says 911 call. Easier for you.
It does, but I'm like, there's one of me. I'm going as fast as I can. I'm
Okay.
trying.
No, that's all right.
Exhibit
Okay.
143.
Okay, I'm not really sure. I'm at my house. There's an active shooter situation going on at the high school. My son goes to high school. I have a missing gun at my house. I need an officer to come to my house right away, please.
Okay, I'm not gonna be able to send anybody to your house right now, so they're on the active shooter situation.
I understand that there's a missing gun here. I have a missing gun at my son's house. It's at the school. And we have to go meet with the counselor this morning because of something that he wrote on a parent paper. And then I went down and I saw a bunch of cops somewhere, and I Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Crumbley?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get your name and phone number, and I'm gonna hear from the defendant that's out there dealing with the situation. He's gonna contact you, okay? What's your first name?
My best friend is James.
Is what Ethan Crumbley?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's that phone number for you?
240-760-6483.
Okay, do you know what your son was doing when he left the house this morning?
He had on a pair of sweatpants and then like a gray shirt, a gray white sweatshirt.
Okay. All right, so he's gonna give you a call, okay? I can't give you a time frame because they're right in the middle of all of this. I can't give you a time frame, but we're gonna give you a call so that it's possible, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Sir, we saw the location data that James Crumbley left the Meyer on Ray Road at 117, and he was home by at least 120.
That's correct.
Okay. What's the relative distance between the Crumbley household and Oxford High School?
Less than a mile.
Okay. Now, after this phone call was made, did you learn that James and Jennifer arrived at the Oakland County Sheriff's Office substation in Oxford?
Yes, I did.
Is this 145? Okay, no objection.
Well, what is this, 144?
140, 144, yes.
Okay, 144 is the
Sorry about that.
This is a call log. James Crumbley's phone call. Are
Correct.
you aware whose number that is, number 17?
Yeah, actually, it's one of the sergeants in Special Investigations, Sergeant Joe Bryan.
Okay, so this is after the shooter is taken into custody.
Correct.
Okay, so you know that he was taken into custody right about 1 p.m. on November the 30th?
Yes, he was.
Okay, and this is 1:50 p.m.
Correct.
Okay, so Sergeant Bryan learned who the shooter's parents are, and he made a phone call to James Crumbley.
Correct.
And shortly after this, did James and Jennifer Crumbley both go to the substation to meet with police?
Yes, they did.
No objection,
146.
no objection to 145 or 146.
145 and 146 are admitted.
Just quickly, this is the verify. They were in fact at the sheriff's office at 148, both James and Jennifer Crumbley. Is that right?
Correct, I'm sorry, yes.
Yes, CNT, we've discussed that issue. It's certainly an interesting question.
158.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so they're at the sheriff's office at 158. Did you come to learn when they went back home?
It was about a half an hour after, or less.
This is 148.
Okay, no objection.
So you're able to,
This one and 147?
I'm sorry, 147 and 148. Thank
Okay,
you.
they're both admitted.
So on Jennifer's phone, you can tell that she's at home by 2:30
Correct.
on November the 30th. Okay, and same with James.
That's correct.
Okay. So this is after they went to the sheriff's office and their son was in custody and then they went back home.
Correct.
Okay. Now, sir, did you have the opportunity in the course of your investigation to review what we have referred to as the burner phones as well as the replacement phones?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I'm going to move ahead to December the 4th, 2021. Are you aware that they were arrested in the early morning hours of December the 4th, 2021?
Yes, I am.
Okay. This is 149 and 150.
We have no objection to 149 or 150.
149 and 150 are admitted.
So I'm showing you 150. May I approach with 149? Sir, this is, why don't you tell me what that is?
This is a report from Celebrate from a phone.
Okay. And that's from her, what we call burner phone?
Correct.
Okay. And up on the screen, 150 indicates that she had set an alarm on her burner phone.
I would just ask that the witness answer the questions. Leading.
That's fine.
Sustain.
That's fine. What is that show?
There's a thumbnail of what is seen on the right side of the screen there, of the alarms being set at 6:30 on Saturday morning and 6:45 Saturday morning.
That's December the 4th, 2021.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, did you find evidence on the replacement phone, which is the phone that was ported with their original numbers, that they had attempted a two-factor authentication for social media accounts?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Now, we had talked at the very beginning of your testimony about deleted content and your ability to recover deleted content. Do you remember
Correct.
that?
Yep.
Okay. Were you able to uncover some deleted content in this particular case?
Yes.
And we've talked about the Facebook message chat between James and Jennifer Crumbley,
Correct.
and you've already indicated that that chat was deleted from Jennifer Crumbley's phone.
That's correct.
Now, were you able to obtain a Facebook thread between Jennifer Crumbley and someone named Brian Malash?
Yes.
And was that through a Facebook search warrant?
Yes.
And did you uncover any messages before December the 1st of 2021?
No.
Okay. So if you were to learn that they had communicated on a regular basis through the Facebook Messenger chat, but you couldn't recover it, what would that indicate to you?
That it was deleted from the phone.
But on both ends, if you couldn't
Yes,
recover from
correct.
the server?
Correct.
Okay. Now, going through the evidence that you were able to uncover from Facebook itself, could you tell that some messages were selectively deleted?
Yes.
Okay. This is Exhibit 151.
Is this with Lenny?
Yeah.
Okay, no objection.
151's in the middle.
So this is portion of what you recovered from the Jennifer Crumbley and Brian Malash Facebook chat. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So what are we looking at here?
The first message is an automated one sent from Facebook to the device. You unsent the message.
Okay, and what's the next?
The next one says, from Jennifer, we're on the run again, helicopters, not sure where to, I'll message you.
And when was this message sent?
You can see it says +0 for UTC, so you have to subtract 5 from the actual time that's displayed there, from there. So that would have been 7:31 in the morning.
And what day was that?
8:31. That was on December 12th, or December 2nd, I'm sorry.
Okay. So the shooting was November 30th. That was a Tuesday. Wednesday was December the 1st. This was the morning of December the 2nd.
Correct.
And this indicates to you that they were deleted by Jennifer Crumbley?
Yes, correct.
How can you tell that?
The message, the automated response sent from Facebook saying you unsent a message.
Also 151. What time and day is this?
This is, it's 7 p.m. UTC, which is minus 5 hours, so it's 2 p.m. on December 2nd.
Okay, that's Thursday, December 2nd. And
Correct.
what did she delete from her phone? What message?
She had sent him, we're fucked.
And she deleted that?
Yes, she did.
Go back to Exhibit 126. Were you able to tell that Jennifer Crumbley deleted some messages she sent to Andrew Smith?
That's correct, yes.
And how were you able to tell that?
Because of the screenshots that were obtained from Andrew Smith don't match what was obtained from her
Okay.
device.
It's Exhibit 151.
No objection.
Okay, so before we get to 151, which is the extraction,
151 is already in there.
yes, thank you, Jeff. Before we show that on the screen, 126 here, these are the screenshots found from Andrew Smith's actual phone.
That's correct.
Okay, so at 10:05 a.m., this is Jennifer writing this and sending this picture, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then we just gone through this. At 1:23, she wrote, "The gun is gone and so are the bullets."
Correct.
Okay. And then, what did she write after that?
I'm praying everything is okay.
That's what Andrew Smith
And
wrote?
that's what Andrew said, yeah. Then she responds, OMG, oh my God, Andy's going to kill himself, he must be the shooter.
And then what?
I need a lawyer at the substation with police, Ethan did it.
Okay. And then what did she write him at 3:39 p.m. the next day? Or later that day?
Later that day, I need my job, please don't judge me for what my son did.
And that was just a few hours after the shooting started, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then what did he write in response and what time?
At 5:47 p.m., he responded with, I can't even begin to understand what you're going through. I'm praying for you. I asked Carolyn to text you some attorney recommendations. And then she responds with, they're taking my cell phone.
Taking my cell phone, okay. Here's 151, and the top message is what?
The one where she says, I need my job. Please don't judge me for what my son did.
Okay, so that's on these screenshots, so we know that wasn't deleted.
Correct.
Okay, now what about this message here?
I can't even begin to understand what you're going through. I'm praying for you. I asked Carolyn to text you some attorney recommendations.
Okay, and then we also have this final message there, taking my cell phone.
Correct.
Okay, but in the entire cell-right extraction from the text message thread between between Jennifer Crumbley and Andrew Smith on her phone, there were no other messages, correct?
Correct.
So that means anything before that message, she deleted.
That's correct.
Okay. So the only thing, I need my job, please don't judge me for what my son did, that was 3:39 p.m. So the gun is gone, and so are the bullets. It has been deleted. OMG, Andy, he's going to kill himself, he must be the shooter, that was deleted. I need a lawyer at substation with police, that was deleted. The picture she sent at 10:05 a.m. was deleted, as was the gun is gone, and so are the bullets at 1:23.
That's correct.
So I'm going to turn now to the Facebook messages between Kira Pennick and Jennifer Crumbley, specifically comparing what was found on Jennifer's phone with what was found from the Facebook search warrant from that particular chat.
Okay.
All right. 153 and 154.
Okay, did we do something with 152?
We have no objection
Oh,
to admitting.
This was 152, Judge. We admitted this one.
Okay, you don't have any objection. But 152 is in there.
No objection, right, okay. And then I'm sorry, what was,
153, 154.
no objection,
Okay.
sorry,
To 153 and 154?
correct.
153, 154.
Thank you, Judge. Now, first I'm going to show you 153, which was the messages left on Jennifer Crumbley's phone. And I'm just going to show you the top portion of what is the cell-right extraction report. So tell us what we're looking at here.
We're looking at the participants involved, one of them being Kira Pennick.
Thank you,
The other one being Jennifer Crumbley.
Nina, for following.
At the very bottom of the screen, you see the conversation instant messages of 26.
Okay. And that's not 26 messages that you selected. That's all that's remaining on her phone.
That's correct.
Okay? And 154 is what?
That's the, you can see at the top extraction report, Facebook warrant return from both Kira and Jennifer. And it says instant messages 4,047.
Okay, so that would indicate that everything other than those 26 messages remaining were deleted by Jennifer Crumbley.
Correct.
And one moment, Your Honor. Nothing further, sir.
Cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to go back to, I want to just start, you've been obviously involved in this case since the 30th of November 2021, correct?
Correct.
And Since that time, you have collected and looked at an abundance of evidence related to the Crumbleys, the shooter, the shooting, everything, correct?
Correct.
And when you were testifying earlier, you testified that at a previous hearing, you had testified about the parents when they first went into Oxford High School, correct?
Correct.
And on that date, you had reviewed many, many materials prior to coming to court.
Correct.
And that hearing was a preliminary examination, which is a hearing that's before a trial, correct?
Correct.
And at that hearing, you did the best job you could in terms of explaining, answering questions.
Correct.
You were truthful on that day,
Absolutely.
as you're being today.
Yes.
And we can agree that you made a mistake about Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley arriving in the vehicle together at the school.
Because of the video, how it jumped, yes.
Okay, an honest mistake.
Correct.
And it's fair to say that when you didn't have more information, you made an assumption that they had been in the same vehicle together, correct?
Correct. I didn't know how many cars they had at the time.
You see them walk into the school together, but you couldn't see before that.
Correct.
And that's why you testified, honestly, you thought they had arrived together, but it was incorrect.
Correct.
And so you would agree with me that the more information you have about any topic, and the less guessing, the more accurate the information will be that you give on this witness stand, correct?
I wasn't guessing before. I didn't know how many cars they had. I just saw them appear in front of the car.
Right, so when you testified and said they arrived in the same car, that was incorrect.
Correct.
And I'm saying that had you had more information about seeing the vehicles pull up or seeing each one get out of separate cars, your testimony would have been different, correct?
It would have been included in the video, correct.
And so my point is, you do the best job you can with the information you have,
Yes, ma'am.
but you're certainly not someone who can go back in time and see and know every detail of every single thing that's happened, correct?
I know where she's going with this.
Not every single thing. You could put together a good timeline with all the information that you gather, yes.
And it's fair to say for this jury, you have put together as detailed of a timeline as you can about all of the events before November 30th.
I hope I know where
through
she's going with this.
11/30th and beyond 11/30th, correct?
That's correct.
And when you are doing that, you are taking data from cell phones and other investigators, from surveillance, from all these different materials that are a part of the investigation in this case.
Correct.
And it's possible that at times when you answer a question, you may not be accurate, but you're not sitting here intentionally trying to lie, correct?
It's absolutely correct.
Okay. I'm going to go back through the investigation that you did. It's fair to say, and I think you testified, you started obviously on November 30th of 2021, correct?
When the investigation started?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And can you give the jury an idea of how much time it takes to get certain evidence, or kind of what it looked like going forward from 11/30 when you received various pieces of information? So on 11/30th, let's talk about what you saw that day. You obviously saw the surveillance camera from the school, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, on that day, did you have the surveillance camera from Jennifer's office?
That came afterwards.
Okay, that came down the road.
Yes.
At that time, did you have the text messages between Jennifer Crumbley and James Crumbley?
That came out. No, that would have been afterwards.
Okay, when did that come?
It would have been within
Where I think she's
a
going.
week, 2 weeks.
Where I think she's going with the idea is that in the same way that this guy can't go backwards in time and know things in the past, that he was just doing the best with the information he had at that time. I think she's using this to set up a later point where she's going to make that argument with respect to the Crumbleys.
Obviously.
The Crumbleys also couldn't go backwards in time. So later statements don't go backwards in time to show their knowledge then. I think that's why she's doing it.
And there were some materials that.
And she's not going to ask the question of this witness
for weeks and months.
because she doesn't want to have the fight, but she wants to lay out the background
That's correct.
from this witness about the idea so she can use it later. I think that's what she's doing.
Over to the prosecutor's office.
Correct.
And then you would assume that they would turn the evidence over to the defense for it to be used in court by.
Do I think it's a strong point? I think it's a point,
Yeah,
and anything in her favor is good, just as like anything in favor of the prosecution is good, right? It doesn't have to be a slam dunk, right? That's not usually how evidence works. Evidence is usually not a slam dunk. So in the same way that these little pieces help the prosecutor, she has a little piece that helps her.
Investigation. I'm sorry. None
If
of
that's what she's planning to do with it.
The 30th was the day of the shooting, and Mrs. Crumbley was arrested overnight between December 3rd and December 4th, correct?
correct.
And it would be fair to say that between November 30th and December 3rd, your office and team and all law enforcement were working as hard as they could to collect information and collect evidence, correct?
Correct.
While you were working as fast as you could, there were a number of materials that you did not see until after Jennifer Crumbley was arrested.
That's where I think this is going, right?
I have information that we
pulling
together at the time. Yeah.
Right? You were overwhelmed, weren't you? We were overwhelmed. There was so much information, right? You didn't know certain things at certain times, did you?
About Jennifer Crumbley.
Right? Of course you didn't. You did the best with the information you had at the time.
Looking back in time.
Where do you think that leads? Right?
And we're trying to put a story together, a series of events or a digital footprint of what had happened. We're trying to put that together.
And as you're trying to put that together, you're doing the best you can to make the timeline and the evidence make sense, correct?
Correct.
But in terms of what happened in the months before the shooting, the day of the shooting, and the days after the shooting, you obviously were not with the Crumbleys 24/7, correct?
No, I was not. I didn't know them before this.
And it's impossible to have, there isn't any way to have a videotape, for example, of all those months, that shooting day and the days following, correct?
Correct.
So you take bits of information and try to put it together the best you can to make sense of it.
Are you referring to this investigation or throughout life?
Well, both. I mean, I guess we do that in both, right?
I guess if in my life, if my son had hallucinations, I would have taken serious pause with that.
All right, let's stop for 1 second. When you say hallucinations, you're saying that you would take serious pause, but in reality, you did not know the shooter before this shooting, correct?
No, I did not.
You do not have awareness if he was really having hallucinations, correct?
I would have taken some time to look into it.
But you don't know.
You're aware that there's this text thread, and we're going to get into it later, where he's telling his parents he's seeing things, correct?
Correct.
But you weren't a part of any of the conversations or a part of that household in those days around that text message conversation, correct?
No, I was not.
You're not
I didn't know them before this.
Okay, you're not aware of what Jennifer and James and their son had been talking about in person before and after those text messages.
Well, from the text message, I know the son on a couple of occasions asked or spoke with his friend about seeing a doctor or wanted to go see his doctor. Tell his parents tell his parents that he wanted to go see a doctor.
And while there are texts between the shooter and his friend, you have no evidence that Mrs. Crumbley has ever seen those texts, correct?
That she has read them? No, I do
Right.
not.
You have, so there's texts that
Right,
shooter
so you're right,
sent to
so
his friend.
she doesn't know those
You
things.
have no way to know whether Jennifer Crumbley ever saw those text messages, correct?
Other than his own words saying, I'm going to tell my parents tomorrow that I want to go see a doctor.
That telling his friend, I want to go see a doctor and I'm going to tell my parents tomorrow, you don't know if he really wanted to go see a doctor or was going to tell his parents, correct?
I understand that's counsel's argument, but it's improper questions. You already answered the question.
Okay, you don't know whether Mrs. Crumbley saw the text between her son and his friend.
No, I do not, ma'am.
And I'm also making the point, Your Honor, and the question is, you also don't know if it's true that he really planned to tell his parents anything. He has a text to a friend saying that, but you don't know whether that's true or not, correct?
Other than him saying on a couple occasions, no, I don't.
Okay? And when you say a couple of occasions, there's text messages on certain days that that you testified about, but there's many other days, we can agree, that you have not testified about, correct?
In reference to what?
In reference to what he said to his friend, or in reference to what he said to the Crumbleys.
I mean, did he have are you asking, did he have conversations with them? I don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, my question is, you've given us bits of information about certain days, about March 9th, about a date in April, about a date in November, correct?
Correct.
Okay, there's a lot of other dates that you did not give us information about what exactly was texted to and from Ethan Crumbley and Mrs. Crumbley, correct?
Correct. There wasn't much texting between them.
Okay, you also, there's certain messages that you testified about between the shooter and his friend.
Correct.
There's also a lot of other text messages between them that you have not talked about.
Well, because the stuff that was talked about was not allowed to be talked about. He talked about,
Your Honor,
Yeah.
This-
Well, I think it's important, Judge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Counsel can't ask questions about evidence that she sought to exclude.
Okay.
telling this jury that I sought to exclude evidence that was irrelevant is very unfair, and that is improper.
Okay, well, there's a lot of improper things here. No one's hiding any evidence from the jury, okay? So I don't want any implication that this witness is hiding what evidence from someone. So,
Thank you, Judge.
so don't ask about the messages if you don't want to know. So.
Okay. When you're talking about the text messages, let's back up and do this differently. You went through text messages between the shooter and his friend to find evidence to support that the shooter was having issues, correct?
To build, we went through the text messages to try to get an idea of who he was and what he was going through and what he had talked about with his friends.
And when you saw
His friend,
text
I'm sorry.
messages like you testified about involving seeing things and dishes flying and demons and things along those lines, you gathered those, and that was the evidence that you've presented to this jury to support your case, correct?
Well, because those are things of importance that he was hallucinating and seeing stuff flying off his shelves. And there's no other evidence or that we could find on the phones or communication between them to say that that problem was remedied or that a phone call was made to the shooter to what's going on or how can I help you, son, or anything like that. None of that was found. So it was important that that was what he was struggling with.
Okay, you're guessing that is what he's struggling with. You're doing the best you can, but you're getting pieces of information out of text messages, and really you don't know these people or what was going on, other than what you see in these texts.
He agrees with that. He didn't know any of them before this. Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. Well, I keep ending up in a situation where we're trailing off and repeating, and I would just ask that that stop.
He doesn't know them.
She tried the same crap in Larry Nassler. Well, fair enough,
When
maybe. You know,
Mr. and
she
Mrs.
has an
Crumbley
obligation to do the best by her
law
client,
enforcement
whether she wins or loses.
came to their house.
So just because she didn't
It's accurate
win doesn't mean that she wasn't doing the best she
the cell
could.
phones
Larry Nassler was super
from
duper guilty,
parents were taken by
incredibly,
law enforcement.
unbelievably guilty. She did her best. That's her job.
Time they came to the home?
Not necessarily the first time. I'm asking, police took the cell phones that Jennifer and James Crumbley used. Police took those phones, correct?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And when police took those phones, Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley obviously went and bought burner phones or track phones.
Correct.
And you've testified that you can see that Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley, or at least Mrs. Crumbley, attempted to get into some accounts that required two-factor authentication.
That's correct.
Can you please explain very quickly what two-factor authentication means for the jury?
It's so someone can't get into your account, which is just simply your password. When you open up an email account or you open up a Facebook account, and it tells you, put your phone number in here. So when you try logging in from a phone or a device that Facebook doesn't recognize, it'll send a text message to the number that you said send a text message to. So then you enter that code into the app as you're trying to log into it. So it's two-factor authentication, your password and then a text message from the provider.
And so for things like sometimes bank accounts or portals to get into doctors, things along those lines, sometimes two-factor authentication is required where you would need your original phone, correct?
Correct.
Or at least your phone number to be able to gain access to your own accounts.
That's correct.
There are accounts that will block you out if you're using a device it's not used to seeing when you log in.
If the two-factor authentication is set up?
Yes.
Correct.
And so in this case, you could see that Mrs. Crumbley attempted to do some two-factor authentication and was unable to do so, correct?
I don't know what she was unable to do, so I know there's a text message that was received from Instagram with a two-factor. I don't know what happened with after that.
Okay, so after buying the track phones, the burner phones, it's fair to say that Mrs. Crumbley and Mr. Crumbley went to their phone carrier and purchased new phones that have their regular phone numbers on them, correct?
Was that after the burner phones, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes, they did.
Okay, so when we're talking about the Crumbleys having 6 cell phones between them, the 6 cell phones include their original phones that were given to police, correct?
That's correct.
It includes these 2 track phones that have different phone numbers where you can't do the two-factor authentication, correct?
That's correct.
And it includes the 2 phones that were purchased after that so that they could have their phone numbers back on devices and then access accounts.
That's correct.
And from the phones, when you seize them, there is evidence that Jennifer Crumbley attempted to deactivate and delete a number of social media applications, correct?
There was talk about it in text messages, you need to delete this account or whatever. I don't know if you have something in particular that you're, a certain account that you're asking.
There are text messages within the exhibits the prosecution has admitted, and I can put them up, that show Mrs. Crumbley and Mr. Crumbley were trying to deactivate Facebook accounts and Instagram, correct?
I know there were text messages people texting them telling them to do that, yes.
Okay, and part of the reason people in those text messages were telling them to do that is because after the shooting, there were threats and, there were a lot of threats against Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley.
She's showing another reason to get rid of the social media accounts. She's showing a reason for the cell phones. She's showing a reason for the actions on the social media. They're independent of consciousness of guilt. The ending incorrect is classic for cross-examination. It does get a little tiresome, though, eventually, but
I don't-
it's classic
I-
cross-examination.
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay. Do you recall that when, in the text messages that Jennifer Crumbley sent out, she told Ms. Bryant...
She's allowed to lead. It's cross.
She told Kira Pennick, she told multiple people that she was being threatened.
Are you telling me that or
I'm
asking me?
asking you.
I don't recall. If you have something to show me, I don't recall that off the top of my head.
Okay.
I think she's actually doing a pretty good job. She's dealt with reversals in pretty good ways. She's tried to refocus and get back on point. She's dealt with objections from the other side, be like, okay, I'm going to go about this a different way. Trying to extract what she needs from this lawyer, or apologize, this witness. And for the most part, she's getting what she needs from so she's had a few little hiccups, but nothing that's like major. And of course, she can always try with another witness. She doesn't necessarily have to get everything out of this witness. I appreciate her cross, and I think she's laying the foundation. I think she's laying foundation for a future witness. And if she is, she's doing a really good job.
In your prior testimony. Is it? Yeah. Sorry.
I'm watching the chat in the stream I'm getting this from too, the WXYZ TV Detroit stream. The chat over there is not having this.
And Kira Pennick.
The chat over there and the watching this thing over in Detroit are not having this defense attorney. But I think they're missing it. I think they're missing
Is that
it.
what this is?
This is in Exhibit 130 that's been admitted. These are screenshots with Kira Pennick. And I am asking you, this is a screenshot showing threats.
Yeah, their chat's like terrible defense attorney. She's an embarrassment.
Showed to Kira Pennick.
I don't know. I don't remember ever seeing. I don't know where.
I don't know, man. I think she's doing a pretty good job.
And the title of the image, but I don't know.
Okay.
Is there a copy of the exhibit that you could?
You don't-
Did you say this is in one?
And she's definitely not going to ask the question of this. She's definitely not going to ask the question of this witness. Well, isn't it true that just like you, the Crumbleys also did know things, blah, blah, blah. She's not going to ask that question of this witness and unravel her entire basis. She'd never ask that question. It's a question too many. She'd have to be retarded to ask that question. So she sets the basis for a later time.
Say, if there's a hard copy of the exhibit that could help him.
The witness doesn't know why he's being asked the questions, so the witness doesn't even know to evade the questions. Because the witness doesn't know why he's being asked. Isn't it true you didn't know things? Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so this was
Isn't it true that you didn't know these things? Yes, absolutely true.
These were admitted screenshots.
Yeah, the witness doesn't even understand why the questions are being
I
asked.
see the.
Okay.
It's good.
Document refresher.
It's good.
Well, this part at the where it says met with his counselor. Yeah, that part I remember that.
Okay, and in the thread, we see what you testified about in terms of Jennifer Crumbley sending over a copy of the math assignment.
Correct. I see that. Yes.
Okay, we see the testimony you gave about Ethan being upset, having lost his friend, and going away, and his dog.
Correct.
Okay, going further down, this is before the shooting started. Okay, so I'm on page 4 of that exhibit.
Her name is Karen
Going
McDonald.
into page
It's funny.
5. This is all before the shooting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and in this part, they're talking, Jennifer has told Kira Pennick, as you testified, about the math worksheet.
Yes.
She's told Kira Pennick about, I had to go to the counselor's office to have a meeting with them.
Correct.
Kira's talking about what horse Ethan could possibly be with that day that might make him feel better.
Correct.
Steps to ameliorate.
As
Steps to
the
ameliorate.
goes
Right?
on further,
Yeah, we were trying to take
Kira
steps to
and
help
Jennifer,
Ethan.
it's fair
We
to
thought,
say,
getting a psychiatrist is
contract.
hard. We thought we were looking for a more immediate solution. We thought maybe being with a horse and petting a horse
Correct.
might be a more immediate
Okay.
thing to give him some immediate
And
comfort. We were taking steps to help him.
November 30th,
I mean, trying to with what you got, man.
she says, I heard there was a shooting at Oxford High School. Is Ethan okay? Correct?
Correct.
Okay? Saying, if you need anything, let me know.
Correct.
And after the time of the shooting at 4:42, Jennifer Crumbley is texting with Kira Pennick again,
Correct.
talking about how she needs to sell her horses.
Correct.
This is when she knows that the shooting has happened, and she says, my head is spinning right now, correct?
That's what, yes, correct.
Okay? She's talking to Kira Pinnick about selling the house back and forth,
Correct.
okay? And Kira is talking about how she'll take care of the horses for Jennifer,
Correct.
okay? And Jennifer says, I don't have my cell phone right now. She tells her I'm on this track phone
Correct.
because the police have her real phone,
Correct.
okay? And then Kira tells her
It is possible that some of the people in Larry Nassler's case were lying. I
about
mean,
how there's stuff on Facebook.
I don't know for
people
sure, but it's
figuring
possible
out
for
what's
sure.
what's going
I mean,
on, correct?
Correct.
And
that doesn't mean that he isn't super
Jennifer
guilty, but it's also
thinks, I'm
possible
off
some people were
Facebook,
lying. I don't
I'm
know.
Still in shock,
Correct.
okay? And Kira offers to send Jennifer, can you receive pictures? I'll screenshot it, correct?
Yes.
And then Kira goes on to send Jennifer screenshots of something a mutual friend posted that was about the shooting, correct?
That's correct.
And their discussions are about, it says right in the exhibit, I cannot believe people on Facebook. I'm so sorry you're having to deal with this stuff, correct?
Correct.
Okay. She asks a question about the medication, and Jennifer indicates we're at a hotel in Lapeer and that the news is live at her house, correct?
Correct.
Kira's response, at least in the text messages, is please stay safe, correct?
Correct.
And Jennifer sends her over what appears to be a screenshot from a social media app, maybe Facebook or I'm not exactly sure, but you can see that Jennifer sent the screenshot where she has received nasty messages to her.
Judge, I'm just going to object to the form of the question. Mr. Rogowski can certainly read all of this, but calling it a threat or nasty, that's not for him to answer. That's for the jury to determine.
Well, yeah, they can hear.
Fine, we'll do it the hard way, and we'll read them out one by one if you want me to do that. We'll do it the hard
Okay,
way.
Can you please tell the jury what these messages say? Larry Barton.
I'm sorry, you want me to read them? What
Sure.
it says on there? It says rotten jail next to him.
Okay, Brandon Hegwood.
What a shame on you.
Kaylee Camacho.
Fuck your ugly ass kid, I hope.
Adam Tank.
What a fucking coward, Ethan.
Jennifer Crumbley texts to Kira, I can't go home.
Correct.
And Kira texts back that she's concerned for Jennifer's, when she says you guys, I'm concerned for you guys, and is expressing concern, correct?
That, yes, to stay away from the horses, correct? Yes.
Okay. She also says she's worried about your horses or hurting you while you're here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. It's fair to say that Jennifer and James are afraid of the public's reaction to what their son did.
Again, Judge, form of the question.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Well, let me back up. I'm sorry, I can rephrase, if that's okay. Okay, so we know the news has been around the Crumbley's home.
Correct.
Okay, so following the shooting, there was media all over their street, correct?
I wasn't there. I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't tell you if there was media there or not.
Okay, it would surprise you if there was?
It wouldn't surprise me, no.
Okay. There were some nasty messages coming into Mrs. Crumbley.
From the screen, are you referring to? Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. And Jennifer is saying she doesn't want to put anyone else at risk. And that specifically is on page 15 of the exhibit you're looking at.
Correct.
Kira is telling her about, or is commenting people are ridiculous, also talking about buying horses, other random comments in there. Is that a fair statement? There's some miscellaneous, I don't know. It's
She
just-
also said, be honest about things too.
Yep, Kira's saying to her, the best thing you can do is be honest about things.
Correct.
Okay? Jennifer's not saying, I don't plan to be honest, right?
She didn't respond with that, no.
Okay, Jennifer's not saying, I've got a big plan to lie, help me put this together.
I don't, it's not in here, no.
Okay, we have no evidence to suggest that Jennifer's telling Kira to lie about anything for her.
Correct.
Okay, so
Good.
when
Very
Kira's
good.
saying be honest, she's saying be honest, but you have no reason to believe that Jennifer's attempting to be dishonest at this point, based on that message.
At this point, no,
Yeah.
but they
And
were
then-
taken into custody for a couple days after they were told to turn themselves in.
I'm sorry?
They were taken into custody a couple days after they were supposed to be taken into custody.
Okay, we're gonna get there, we'll get there.
Diffuse it, move on.
Crumbley is representing.
Good job,
that
counselor.
She's trying to work
It's like
out lawyer fees,
the
figuring
witness
out,
just said something harmful to
about
you.
being questioned,
Diffuse it. We'll get there
if she's
later.
gonna be
Move
brought
on.
in,
Good job.
Amounts she can pay, things like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay? And Jennifer is telling her, I am bawling right now. My son ruined so many lives today.
That's correct.
And he did ruin so many lives that day.
Yes, he did.
And Kira is writing back to her. She wishes she could help more. She's also in shock, correct?
Objection again in the form of question, Judge.
Well, he doesn't know if she's in shock, she texts that.
Okay, I'm sorry. She texted, I am still in shock too.
That's what she texted, correct.
And Kira encourages Jennifer, take it one day at a time, and again, just be honest about everything. It should help you through this.
Correct.
And offers to take care of the boys, which we would guess is her horses.
The two horses at her farm, correct.
Jennifer is thanking her for not judging her, unlike the whole world, correct?
That's what, yes, correct.
Okay, meaning that we can assume Jennifer feels the whole world is judging her.
Again, objection to the form of the question.
Yeah, well, he doesn't know, he knows what the text says, he doesn't know how she feels, but that's what she said.
Okay, that's what the text says.
That's what the text says, correct.
Kira says that she's not going to essentially judge Jennifer. It doesn't remotely make her think it's their fault, correct?
That's what Kira texted, yes, correct.
And then Kira
Good job.
says, it sounds like Ethan was a troubled kid.
Correct.
It's unfortunate this happened.
That's correct.
Okay. And Jennifer is texting her back, I wish we had some warnings. Something. That's what Jennifer texted back to her, correct?
Yep. See, this is where she. This is why she asked the questions.
That could have been a warning.
This is why she asked the questions earlier about, like, you didn't know things, did you, in the past? You didn't know those things. There was a lot of information. You didn't know everything. Now she's getting it because she has something to hook to her earlier questions.
Right.
So they're saying, yeah. So she's using the idea that they didn't know. She's doing good work, ma'am. She's doing good work.
Great, those are there, okay? To you, those.
WXYZ Detroit isn't having any of it. They think that the defense lawyer is an idiot. I think she might be silent. I think she might be secretly brilliant.
Jennifer Crumbley is texting her friend Kira in this text thread. That's what we're going over right now.
Okay?
And her texts are saying, I wish we had warnings.
Correct?
Correct, that's what she put, yes.
Okay? And Jennifer Crumbley wrote, he's a good kid. They made a terrible decision. And there may be typos, but it says, he's a good kid. They made a terrible decision, correct?
That's what she typed, yes.
Okay. Kira responds back, there probably were warnings, but nobody saw them. Hindsight is always 20/20.
WXYZ is ready to convict over here. They're not feeling it.
I don't care if you agree with it or not.
That's what's typed there.
That's what Kira says.
That's what's
Hindsight
typed
is
there.
always 20/20, correct?
That's what's typed there, yes.
There you go. Just like you. Wasn't it true that your hindsight was 20/20? Isn't that true? Ha 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 ha.
It says, people at the barn are concerned. I'm sorry, I'll go slower, okay? A lot of people have found out Ethan's all over Facebook. That's the next thing she says, correct?
Correct.
And then she goes on to say, people at the barn are concerned.
Correct.
She tells Jennifer, I think it would be best if you didn't go out to the barn, or if you do, you should be escorted by police, correct?
Correct.
When someone's escorted by police, that's usually for safety reasons, correct?
Possibly, yes.
There you go. Possibly yes is good enough. Move on. Good job. Possible work.
Jennifer says, seriously, those horses are the only thing good in my life right now. And this is after the shooting, correct?
Correct.
And Kira responds, I understand that, but we all need to be careful.
There you go.
So
There you go.
to say there was a concern about safety regarding Jennifer after the shooting, and also other people around her were concerned for their own safety.
Correct.
And
There you go.
it's also
Good job.
fair to say, and if you don't know, please just let me know if you don't know, a lot of people in this state hated Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley when they heard about this shooting.
Judge, he can't possibly
I don't know.
answer that question.
I don't know how we can testify to that.
Okay.
She's doing a great job. She's trying to extract every last bit she can get from this witness.
Yes, there was, of course.
And there were many news articles,
Correct, yes.
and people on anything like this are naturally upset to see a school shooting,
Absolutely.
and people naturally are angry to hear that children have died.
Absolutely.
And this was the kind of event that sparked a lot of emotion in a lot of ways.
That's fair to say.
There you go.
That's fair to say for you personally.
Absolutely.
You would imagine that for other people, they were personally affected by this, very emotional.
Yes.
And it's fair to say that this kind of a tragedy was it was just horrific. We can agree it was horrific.
The shooting, yes, it was, absolutely.
I like it. She's trying to extract everything she can.
On Facebook, she's on a track phone, needs to figure some things out.
No, she's retained.
Correct.
If they did have a phone
She's retained
call,
counsel.
you're not aware of it. Well, and I'll slow down. The next message says, sorry I missed your call from Kira, correct?
Correct.
But we don't know what happened in between the text about calling at 11:23 and the text the following day at 2:34. We don't know if there ended up being conversations or not. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
You can't tell from this this
Not
threat.
from this, correct.
So, they're going back and forth, talking more and more about letting her know later today, things like that. They're talking horses in between all of this. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
And
She's working for free,
at
is
the
she?
bottom of page 22.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that still makes her
here it
retained, but
indicates,
still.
I don't want people to follow you or hurt you.
Correct.
And Jennifer says, we are out of the area for a few days in a safe place until we have a better grasp on everything, correct?
That's correct.
She doesn't say, we are trying to get out of state, we're trying to get out of the country. She doesn't say anything like that, correct?
Not in this chat thread.
Okay?
There you go.
In this, she says, we're trying to be in a safe place,
Correct.
which would indicate safety is, of course, a concern to the Crumbley parents.
By saying they're in a safe place, yes, I would say that.
There you go. You're getting what you
Karen
need.
says, I'm glad you're safe. I care about you guys, correct?
Correct.
She assures her she'll take care of the horses. They'll talk about buying them, figuring out somebody to buy them, correct?
That's correct.
A few more text messages back and forth about meeting before then. And then on page 24 of that exhibit, Jennifer says, what's your number? I want to call and set up a safe place to meet, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, she mentions that her messenger is probably being monitored,
She does say that, yes.
okay? And she's talking about she needs to get stuff, discuss the horses, correct?
That's correct.
And let's see, they're going through more.
Thank you for becoming a member, Just Me. We do appreciate everyone who helps to support this channel.
What page is that?
We appreciate everyone who hits that beautiful, beautiful join button.
And you're aware that after the night of the shooting, the Crumbleys went and stayed in a local hotel.
Yeah, correct. They went to a hotel, yes.
Okay? And the next day, they went to a different hotel.
Correct.
Okay, which was also, I mean, maybe an hour from here, a local hotel. Not out of state, not out of the country, right?
Within an hour, yes.
Okay. And so in the days following the shooting, the Crumbleys did not return to their home in Oxford.
They did not know.
And as far as you know, since the day of the shooting, the Crumbleys have never returned to their home in Oxford.
No, they've never been back.
See if there's anything else, I'm sorry. Okay, and then the rest of this is talking about possible charges being announced, and things. Jennifer is saying she's anticipating there may be charges announced, criminal charges.
Yes, at the night before, I believe. On the page 26, yes.
After the shooting.
Yes.
And when she's talking about charges, she's trying to figure out if they're charges, well, I'm sorry, scratch that. She's talking about charges against herself, correct?
I'm not entirely certain if she's, it doesn't say whether she's referring to herself or somebody else.
Okay, so she's waiting to basically just figure out what's going on.
Judge,
is what-
again, counsel can't narrate what she thinks her client was thinking. She can have him read the text message. I admitted it into evidence. They can have it all.
Yep, okay, so there's a text.
Okay,
Maybe
so-
there for that.
So the text says, Jennifer Crumbley wrote, I'm not sure what's happening.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. From from the text message thread that the prosecution introduced between Jennifer Crumbley and Brian Maloche, we also can conclude, and if you can't, let me know, that Jennifer Crumbley was trying to deactivate and delete social media accounts.
I believe she was, yes, I believe they discussed that, yes.
And Jennifer Crumbley is asking Brian Maloche things about, can you still see James's Facebook? Can you see my Facebook? Questions like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. James and Jennifer Crumbley Jennifer Crumbley in her text messages is very clearly making it obvious. She is telling Brian that she is shutting things down. Like that.
I don't remember the language that she used. I know they talked about it. I don't remember if she used the phrase shutting things down.
If a person has a Facebook account that they deactivate, okay, I'm gonna go even slower. When someone has a Facebook account, other people in the world have the ability to see that account, correct?
If it's public or your friends or whatever other security or settings, but yes.
However you have it set up,
Yes.
you allow who can see the account and who can't, correct?
That's correct.
If you do have an account and you don't want the world to see it, if you deactivate the account doesn't appear when people look for you on Facebook, correct?
That's correct.
So if the Facebook account is deactivated, people cannot send you messages through Facebook, correct?
That's correct.
And they can't send you messages through Facebook Messenger.
I'm not entirely certain if you'd have to deactivate Messenger as well. I don't know, because they are two separate platforms. It's under
Thank you, Vincent, for
one
becoming a member by
company,
hitting the join
not
button for a
Facebook.
mere 99 cents a month. You too can become an uncivilian and help to support the channel. We literally make it as cheap as possible. Only 99 cents for an entire month. Help feed an uncivil. Thank you.
Messages.
Correct.
And in general, if a person is trying to avoid having people find them on social media, deactivating the account makes it so people don't find them, correct?
Correct.
So, for example, Instagram. Jennifer Crumbley had an Instagram account, and you testified about that to the jury, correct?
There's a two-factor authentication test message that was found, yes, with Instagram. Is that what you're referring to?
I'm not referring to the two-factor authentication, but you testified that Jennifer Crumbley had an Instagram account. Well, we can agree, she had an Instagram
Yeah,
account.
there were posts that were admitted the other day, I believe, right?
Right,
Yes.
and in that, on Instagram, the whole point of Instagram is to post photos or videos, correct?
Correct.
And we can see the Instagram account that Jennifer Crumbley had with videos and pictures she had posted over time.
Correct.
And when a person
Thank
turns
you,
off
Plop,
or
for becoming an uncivilian for
deactivates
99
their
cents.
Instagram account,
We
other
do
people
appreciate
in the
everyone who
world
supports the
don't have
channel
the
by hitting that
ability
beautiful, beautiful
to
join
see
button.
those
And just a
photos
friendly
online,
reminder, if you
correct?
have
That's correct.
Amazon
Other people in
Prime,
the world
you
don't
can
have the
become a
ability to send
subscribed
messages
member
through
on Twitch,
Instagram
which
to
gives me
the
money,
person that's
but
deactivated
costs you
their account.
nothing.
Correct.
So if you go over
So,
twitch.tv/uncivil law
as a computer expert, if a
and
person
sync
is
up your
trying to
Amazon
avoid
Prime with Twitch, you
having
can
people
subscribe to me,
see them
and
or
Jeff
find them
Bezos
or see
gives me
posts
money.
of theirs, even
It's a
old
beautiful
posts.
thing.
Deactivate
Help
the
me take
account
some of Jeff
will
Bezos'
accomplish
money.
that
I appreciate it.
task.
Correct.
On that Instagram account, you are able to tell from the data that you received other accounts that Jennifer Crumbley followed.
Correct.
So, meaning that from her account, Jennifer Crumbley had certain people she was linked up with where she could see what they posted on their accounts, correct?
Correct.
And on the flip side, people she was friends with on Instagram or connected to could see what she posted.
That's correct.
And
You're now saying my
you
boom
know
arm is gonna be
that
here in a half hour.
Jennifer's son
Ooh.
had an Instagram account, e.crumbley, correct?
Correct.
And we can tell that Jennifer's account was connected with her son's in a way that she could see what he posted on that account.
Correct.
Yeah, I do look like I'm
We
going to
can
fall
presume
asleep. You're
he could
correct.
see what his mother posted.
Correct.
Energy levels are running a little bit low
When
today.
you are looking through the Instagram records,
Wake up, Kurt.
you are not able
Wake
to
up.
tell which posts Jennifer did in fact see or not see, correct?
Correct.
So if the shooter posted something and Jennifer Crumbley had not checked Instagram, it's possible she would not have seen it even though he posted it.
It's possible.
If he posted it and she looked at Instagram and looked at his account, or looked at his profile, is that what it's called? She would certainly see anything he posted.
Looked at his account, you're saying, I'm sorry?
Yes.
Correct.
But in terms of all of the data you have, you don't have any way to determine which Instagram pictures she did or did not see.
Correct.
Now, if
There
she
is now a
did
woman.
not
There's now a woman
picture,
in the
you would know she obviously
WXYZ
saw it because you
Detroit
can't comment
chat
unless you
who
had seen
says
the picture to put the
that Kathleen
correct?
That's
Boogan shoots
And on
says, "Let me tell you guys, I'm a
Instagram
criminal defense attorney home on maternity leave,
there are
practicing as long as she has. I'm an old new mom and she's driving me
Jennifer
batshit
Crumbley
crazy."
To her son
Yeah,
about
well.
posts, correct?
On all the photos or or a particular one?
I suppose the ones that we've admitted as exhibits in this case, the photograph of the gun, for example.
Correct.
And there's no doubt the shooter liked guns,
Correct.
and there's no doubt Jennifer posted photos of the gun
Correct.
and videos,
Correct.
and in that. And even with what she posted, we can't tell if the
She is a
shooter
little annoying to
see
listen to. I will
her
agree with
posts.
that. Her vocal
Possible.
tone
Correct.
is not doing her
He may have
favors. I will
seen
agree
them,
with that.
He may not have seen them.
That's correct.
She needs some like vocal coaching or
In
something.
terms of people communicating, we know that people can communicate obviously by telephone, voice phone calls. I don't take
This is
them
my
these
full-time
days,
job,
I take them,
Debbie.
but in the old days,
I've been a full-time streamer for
from one person to another.
what
correct?
now?
Correct.
And
How long have I been a
there's
full-time
the ability,
streamer?
obviously,
Year
to
and
text.
change?
People can send messages
Year and a
from
half?
one person to another.
Yeah, I think I've been a full-time streamer for a year and a half.
In terms
So this
of
is my job now.
people's habits, some people may delete
I'm on sabbatical
texts
from the law.
when they get them. Correct?
Correct.
Some people may keep every text they've ever had.
It's correct.
Some phones will delete texts after a certain period of time.
Not unless the user tells it to. No.
If someone gets a new phone, there are occasions where the old text from
It doesn't
the
feel
old
like it's been
phone
that
may not
long. It
come
doesn't
up
feel
on
like
the
it's
new
been a year and a
phone.
half.
I mean, I can't say for certain. I don't know. I haven't tested
I
something.
guess I'm having
like that. I don't
fun.
know.
We can agree that everyone's personal habits in terms of how many texts they keep on their phone or don't are individual to each person.
Correct.
So
Do I ever go to
when
court?
you're
That wasn't my job in the
testifying,
first
you tell
place.
the jury about posts
My work
that
was
you can tell
transactional.
or texts that you
So I've
can
appeared in
tell
court,
are
like,
deleted or
3
not
times in my
deleted.
career.
You have never sat
So,
down and
yeah,
talked
my
to
work is-
Jennifer
my work is on
Crumbley
paper.
About her habits
Unbreaded.
with deleting
So I was a
posts or
transactional lawyer.
pictures or texts, correct?
That's correct.
The best you can do is look at what's deleted.
Why'd I stop
what's not
practicing?
deleted,
Burned
and tell
out?
the jury,
I was burned out from my job that I had for 15
Correct.
years, and I was becoming really, really depressed, and I had to go, or I was going to have a mental break. So that's pretty much the reason I left. Yeah,
want to go to.
that's the answer. I was about to have a mental break, so I was like, I probably should leave now.
2021.
Yep.
You testified pretty extensively about that date. Do you recall the materials from that date? And if not, I can certainly.
Absolutely, yeah, if you have copies of it, I would prefer that, yes, please.
Okay. So on that date, I will approach with copies in just a moment. I just need to pull it up on my computer. I'm going to go to.
Yeah, and then the cases I appeared in
78.
court weren't even like in my field. I appeared once in a housing case because I was doing landlord-tenant law
So-
pro se.
Your Honor,
I appeared once in a traffic case, and I was a legal advisor to some groups for a
You said
while.
you wanted hard copies.
Either way, it doesn't matter to me.
Oh, okay.
Are you okay with this?
That's fine.
screen? Or do you want?
I'll have that, please.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So March 9th is one of the dates that you talked about.
Correct.
And the text messages that were introduced make it clear that
Yeah, so
James and
Depp
Jennifer
would have been
Crumbley
April that
made
year.
plans that day to go out.
So
to
I
the
guess
bar,
I started
correct?
full-time stream. I guess I started full-time
And
streaming
you
at the
have,
end of Depp. It was about
You have photos confirming that they were in fact at the bar.
it was about a month after Depp I started streaming full-time.
Correct.
Okay, the jury has seen that the data shows the times these photographs were taken, so we know they were taken on March 9th,
Correct.
okay?
But that wasn't really the
On
reason,
GPS
although it did give me the
locations
ability
to
to
prove
leave,
they
which
were
was
there
nice.
on that date.
Because I
Correct.
felt secure
Okay.
enough that I was
And
bringing
it's
in
on
enough
that
income that I
date
wouldn't starve to
that
death.
Ethan Crumbley,
So it did
or,
give
I'm
me
sorry,
the
shooter,
the
is
safety to
sending his
leave.
parents some
But I had been on a
texts,
decline at my
Exhibit
job for
82.
at least
During
5
all of
years,
those
and it was
texts.
becoming
Yes.
increasingly
Okay.
untenable.
Now,
People
in these
people who were
texts,
part of my channel at that time
starting
will tell you the
at-
stories,
up on
but
the
like
screen,
it was getting ugly, guys. It was getting ugly, and my friends, including Ian,
this has
were
been
becoming
admitted as
increasingly
Exhibit
deeply concerned about me.
82.
So
At 3:17,
Yeah,
we
it's,
can see that the shooter
yeah.
asks his mom, "Where are you?"
Correct.
And I'm sorry, I have that one in my hand. Do you want me to trade with you?
I should be fine with this.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think council misspoke.
I'm sorry, Jennifer, I'm so sorry. Jennifer Crumbley asked the shooter, "Are you home now?"
So it was sort of nice that I had
At
something to fall
3:17.
back on,
Where are you?
so
Yes.
that I could
That's
I'm
continue
sorry,
eating.
where are you?
Yes.
Okay. And the shooter responded, it looks like 4 hours later, saying, "Can you get home now?"
MLS, I'd be happy to
And
stream
then
this with you.
proceeded to
You're
send
welcome.
some other
You're
texts
welcome here
about
anytime. You know that
there's someone
MLS.
else in the house, I think.
Glad to see you, sir.
And it goes on from there, correct?
Correct.
Now, in between the time of 3:17 and 7:50, okay?
Yeah, I was
we can
part-time
agree there's a
during
couple
Rittenhouse.
hours of a gap.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You don't know if Jennifer
Fortunately, my
Crumbley
job
and the
was
shooter
very flexible
had
on
phone
hours,
conversations or discussions
so I was able to
over
shift
those
time
couple of
pretty
hours.
effectively.
If we look at the call logs on their phones, we could possibly find that out.
Okay? If we looked at the call logs and the phone calls were to and from cell phones, we would be able to tell that.
Because the
correct?
work is transactional in
Yes.
nature, it
Right.
doesn't like
But if-
require being in a
let's say
courtroom, right? So it doesn't
Jennifer
require like
Crumbley called from
it doesn't
her office
require
phone.
being in a particular place at a particular
would-
times. Like
it
you
would
just have to
not
get the
show up
documents
the
filed
same
or
as if she
done
called
by a
from her own
particular
cell phone.
time. So
Well, the
you
number-
can kind of do them anytime, right? So you can do them late at night, early in the morning, doesn't matter. So yeah, I just shifted my time so that I could do Rittenhouse. So yeah, kind of doing two full-time things there at the moment. Do things on the weekend
Provided over
that I wouldn't normally do. So I was doing a lot of weekend work
several
so I could make my
call
deadlines.
records, but not call
Yep.
records for example, Jennifer Crumbley's office with Ethan Crumbley.
There are none entered as exhibits. I can't say for certain right now with all the information I looked at, if there were any, off the top of my head.
You don't know if there were any.
Right now, I don't know.
Okay. And you also don't know that day, on the 8th, you know that they're planning to be at the barn. James and Jennifer make plans to go to the barn that
Correct.
day after work.
Correct.
Okay? Between the time they make these plans and the time the shooter texts, "Can you get home now?" You don't know if Jennifer Crumbley or James
Damn it, my
Crumbley
eye's
has
itching.
physically
That
been
happens
with
sometimes. I'm
the
sorry,
shooter.
guys. I'm taking Flonase
Right,
to
no,
deal with
no,
it,
do
and I
not.
still have
That chat
issues.
thread right there, I do not know that.
You don't know the discussions on that day that may have taken place in between the shooter and his parents.
Right, from this, I can't tell you that. Is that what you're
I am in
saying?
Texas,
Right.
yes.
Correct.
Right.
I live in Austin,
The
and
best
next
you
month I'll
can
be in
do
Houston.
Is piece together bits of information, but we can agree there's gaps of time where you don't know definitively what happened.
A month from today, actually, is
now,
the
I
move
guess.
date. 30 days
We can
till I move.
agree there are any number of things that could have happened between 3:17 and 7:50 there would not be evidence to show you what exactly happened, correct?
If there is none there, you mean? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Correct.
And the only people who would know if they can even remember the day years ago would be the people who were present. So Mrs. Crumbley and the shooter, correct?
Correct.
They would be the only people who truly know what they spoke about or didn't speak about on that day.
Correct.
So when you see these texts, and I understand you find them alarming, I imagine that the texts, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you find alarming are the texts about there is someone in the house, I think, someone walked into the bathroom and flushed the toilet and left the light on. I thought it was you, but when I came in, no one was home. There is no one in the house, though. Those are some of the texts that you found to be problematic, correct?
In the fact that there's no response between any of those, yes.
Okay. We can agree there's no response, but you don't know if, okay, we can agree there's no response by text between Mrs. Crumbley and the shooter, correct?
Correct.
But you also have no way to tell when you see text messages like this, at what time Mrs. Crumbley read those texts.
Hey, glad to hear that you had a
Well,
great,
right,
successful
yes,
time at
not the
Clemson.
time.
Okay.
Go
so
Tigers.
for example, when the shooter texts, "Can you get home now?" And then there's someone in the house, I think, a few seconds later, and then about 30 seconds after that, another text. You have no idea if Jennifer Crumbley checked her phone to see the first text message, checked and saw the second. You don't know which ones she saw or when, correct?
I don't know the time they were read, no.
All you know is that you don't see any response to them.
They're correct, there's no response.
So there's a number of possible things that could have happened in between these texts.
From 7:50 to the end of the last text,
Yeah.
she could have texted back, you mean, or called?
She could have, well, she didn't text back. We agree with that,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Okay. When I say there's a number of things that could have happened, I mean, she could have read the text and thought this is garbage or he's joking and just set the phone down, correct?
She could have.
Okay? She could have not seen the texts because she was busy doing something.
Correct.
She could have been, we know she's at the horse ranch. Are you aware of how strong Jennifer Crumbley's cell signal is out at the farm, at the barn, where the horses are kept?
I have no idea about that, no, I do not.
Okay? If her cell signal doesn't work out where the barn is, it's possible these texts are not getting to her until she gets to a place where data uploads into the phone, correct?
That's correct.
There you go.
So,
Not bad.
While we see these texts being sent, we cannot conclude that Jennifer Crumbley is reading these as they are coming to her. Fair to say?
I mean, that's the time that they were set, the 7:50 and 14 seconds, and then 17 seconds and 39 seconds. That's when they were actually sent, and they were received on the other end. That's marked at that time.
It's,
Otherwise, it would have come in at a later time.
okay, but my point is you don't know when she saw them, when Mrs. Crumbley actually read them.
No, but they would have been on the phone at that time.
If the phone had a signal and was able to get text, they'd be on the phone at that time, correct?
It would have been at a later time, at the time that they came in.
Okay, but if the signal wasn't working, she might not have been able to see those texts until she got to a point where the signal came in.
Correct.
Okay, there's times where you're in an area, people can be in an area with their cell phone, and the signal is bad, and texts are coming into them, but their phone shows nothing. That's a possibility, correct?
Correct.
And then when the person gets to a spot with better cell
She's
phone
somewhat
signal,
belaboring the
all of a sudden,
point,
all
but maybe
text
that's
segments
also the
for
idea.
whatever period of time,
She's trying to like really belabor the point to the jury so they don't miss it.
correct?
That there are other reasons that she
And
might not have
just
seen the
because
messages or
they
not
didn't
reacted.
phone at that time, they
So
would still
she
set possibly-
she really wants to make sure the jury heard it, so she's going to repeat it a whole bunch of
I can't say
times.
for certain.
You don't know.
I can't say for certain
So-
without testing, correct.
Okay, so the text messages that were sent about someone being in the house, someone walking into the bathroom.
Yeah, you could have even said you don't know where she is in relation to the phone. You don't know the phone is on her.
That
You don't know if she
even
stepped away from the phone,
thoughts
yeah.
Jennifer Crumbley had.
Yeah,
when she-
exactly.
when
There's
she
there's
did
other
in
ideas.
fact
There's other ways you
those
could go about this
messages.
too.
I don't know if she would have called back if that was alarming to her. Is that what you're saying, or?
I guess what I'm saying is, so these messages are coming in, and even when she does see them, let's say if she sees them as they're coming in, you don't know what she's thinking about these.
I don't know what she's thinking, no.
Okay, and you also don't know,
Yeah,
And- and
if that's
obviously
the
we
time
already
if
talked
that's the
about it.
time received, it doesn't necessarily
this sort
mean
of been asked,
it's
but
the time
you
she
guys
saw
don't
it.
know when she's seen
No.
each message. There's no documentation like.
No, it doesn't
she
mean
saw
she
this
was with
one
her
at 8 o'clock,
phone.
This one at 8:05, anything like that.
Those are the times that they came
Doesn't
to
mean
the
that her phone
yes.
didn't die 5 seconds later. You know, so
The
yeah,
next
this
message we see is a text message on the following day sent to Ethan by Jennifer Crumbley that says, "Where is your dad?" Correct?
Can you just scroll down a little bit?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure I see
yeah,
it.
no, sorry.
You know, I feel like maybe I should give the jury a break. You're not close, right?
I'm not even close.
I think the witness could probably use a break as well.
Okay. All right, so,
we're going to take a break.
I'm gonna let you step down, we can't discuss your testimony anymore.
Okay.
Okay, so can we come back at about 5 after 3, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right?
All rise for the jury.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, my friend. I appear to dissent from the chat over at WXYZ TV Detroit Channel 7.
Competitive, so, that's gonna make you lose them,
Okay,
all right? All right, so 5 after 3, okay?
thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
So we're going to break for 10 minutes. So yeah, the chat over there is not having any of this. They think that this is all shit, and there are apparently a couple attorneys over there who also think this is shit. But I'm going to express the dissenting opinion. I know I'm about to disagree with some other people. I know, what are the odds, right? But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and disagree for some of this because I think she's actually doing a really good job. Now, I think there's reason to criticize her. I think, you could argue that she's overly belaboring the point. You could also argue that her voice is just really annoying. But the idea that she has, I think, is really good. She's trying to emphasize things. Like so her major themes was like pinning down the detective on the idea that you can't go back in the past and that there's a lot of information and you don't know then what you knew now. Right? And hindsight is 20/20, basically that idea. So she really got that for the detective, right? You didn't know things then, right? There was a lot of conflicting information. Things were confusing. You didn't know things. You didn't know for sure what was going on, right? And so she's trying to make the argument by parallel to the defendant, who then she brought in the text messages to try to emphasize that point. and be like, yeah, here's the defendant expressing also some confusion. And then she brings in the text messages also to show that the threat, that her perception of the threat against her was reasonable because other people had that concern as well. Like saying, don't come to the barn, it's not safe. That the media's at your house, take care of yourself, and so forth and so on. And now she's getting the idea, somewhat belaboring, but she's getting the idea that the text messages may not have been received by her, or perceived by her. Maybe there's a reason that she didn't respond to them. Maybe it's because her cell signal didn't work. I'm not necessarily sure how good that indication is, but maybe they weren't received. Maybe she didn't see them. Maybe her phone died 5 seconds later. Maybe whatever, right? And she's trying to really pin them down. And she's asking the question a whole bunch of different ways to make sure it doesn't go past the jury, I think is what she's doing. Repetition is the mother of learning, as my high school history teacher would say. Repetition is the mother of learning. So she's trying to make these points, and I think she's doing a successful job, all things considered. Is it the way I necessarily go about it? No, but I respect what she's trying to do. And I respect that she has a difficult case, right? So she has to really belabor somewhat every point in her favor, arguably, because, well, the horror show speaks for itself, and she needs to give the jury reasons to potentially rule for her. And again, like in the same way that the prosecution doesn't necessarily have one thing that, proves this guilty, which is why I was sort of frustrated when we started this stream, because someone was asking me, well, what evidence proves they're guilty? I'm like, there isn't evidence that proves them guilty. It's the accumulation of evidence. We're on the track, right? There's evidence that shows their guilt. Proves their guilt? No, we're not there yet. We haven't reached that point. And now she, in the same way, is like, is this a dead ringer defense for the defense? Of course it's not. But she's providing evidence in favor of her. She's helping to build the scales for her. And some of this evidence may not become clarified until a later time. It may come clarified days later, weeks later, when we have a witness, right? Presumably, because I think she said that the defendant's going to testify for themselves. Presumably, she can emphasize this point with the defendant. Like, you didn't know things. You were confused, right? And then during closing, brings it all together. So I think she's doing a pretty good job, with arguing this stuff. So her voice is a little annoying, though. I will concede that. And the 6 cell phones weren't about being secretive. 2 of those cell phones were taken. 2 of them were used as a temporary, because they just had to get something quick. Because, they didn't have any cell phones, so they just went down to the corner store and got something quick. And then they got permanent replacement phones where they transfer their phone number over. So the 6 cell phones are explainable. Yeah. So yeah, but some of the WXYZ channel 7 Detroit people are not having it. They think that she's a clown show. Including apparently some lawyers over there think she's a clown show. Oh well. My daughter's a lawyer and has the same problem with sounding young and female. Yeah, well, some voice lessons might help. Seriously, get voice lessons. I literally get voice lessons. It's a good investment. A vocal coach. Seriously get a vocal coach like you're a singer. They can help you on speaking. Yeah, they can help you on speaking. They can help you on your intonation. They can help you on your pacing. Get a vocal coach. Why not? It's one of your tools as your profession, right? Would a professional go to a professional to help them make a good oboe? Yeah, right? So if they had a bad oboe, would they go to a professional to fix the oboe? Of course they would. So if she has problems with her voice, go to a vocal coach. Get some training, man. It's worth the investment. She can, yeah. Get her some vocal lessons for her birthday. How about that? Get her some lessons with a vocal coach for her birthday. That's good shit. Yeah, since the C- opening, she's been doing an A- job. I think that's fair. Yeah, she's fair, and she's laying things out in a way that hopefully will come home. And the jury thinking to themselves, oh, why are we hearing this again? is better than the jury saying, "Oh, why didn't we hear this at all?" I remember, wasn't it Barnes who was saying this, or was it Ty who was saying this? I forget which of the lawyers were saying this. But they had a case. They were saying that on their own streams. They were saying on their own streams, like they had a case where there was this thing that the lawyer themselves knew was important, and so the lawyer said it like 40 different times, right? And this is what they said about themselves, right? I got this point through 40 different times. I said it 40 different ways, and then when I was talking to the jury after the deliberation, they're like, "Geez, I really wish you had mentioned this thing." And it was the thing they had mentioned 40 times, even though they mentioned it 40 different times. The jury apparently never heard it. And so, yeah, sometimes you have to beat the jury over the head a little bit, because apparently it goes in one ear and out the other. So it's better for them to be annoyed, because it's like, geez, we've heard this before, than for them to be like, oh, we never heard it at all. So, yeah, there's probably a balance there on the pragmatic element of it, but I don't object to it in the first instance, especially in a difficult case. Because the jury is going to have the tape of the shootings playing over and over in their head. Right? The horror show of the tape it doesn't need to be repeated. It's going to live in their head rent free. So you got to give them something else to think about. Law and Crime wants their parents crucified. Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not sure the Law and Crime chat is also asking the right questions. They're letting their emotionality. This is the problem, I think, and also with WXYZ's chat and Law and Crime chat, they're basically turning into a mob, and they don't recognize it. Right? They are using their pure emotional outrage to be like, burn them at the stake. Right? We're way past thinking about this. We're just in a pure feeling about this, and like, string them up. I'm stringing them up high. And, so they're turning into a mob, which isn't an invalid feeling. And it's one of the reasons the defense lawyer has to work so hard too, because this jury will be a mob if you don't show them another way. So, she's trying, man. She's trying. Whether or not she can win or not, whether or not she can get there or not, she's doing everything she should. She's doing a good job. Her cadence needs help. Other than that, she's doing fine. So she needs some vocal lessons. Other than that, she's doing fine. Defense has a say in who the jurors are. Of course they do. But they're human beings, man. They're human beings. And the tape is pretty inflammatory. That isn't to say that it's excludable, but it's pretty inflammatory. So of course the defense has some say on who the juror members are, but they're human beings. Those people could turn into a mob just as surely as anyone else. The defense knows that. They should know that. Yeah, the defense had a hand in trying to pick some neutral people, but we showed them some horror show tape. We showed them some stuff of some school shooting, and our assistant principal talking about how they were helping a bleeding student in their arms. So yeah, if they weren't a mob before, they might be now, man. So yeah, all that stuff. I need some water. I guess I'll wait for the jury I guess I'll get for him to come back, so you have something to look at while I get some water. We as parents need to be parents, not friends to our kids. Well, there's a line there too. And I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't think that means that a parent can't be in some sense a friend to their kids. And I understand what you're meaning. They need to be more than a friend. But I don't know. I don't think necessarily being a taskmaster or a strict disciplinarian is like the only way to be a friend. So, or only way to be a parent. So there's some balance there, to be sure. And I don't know what's best for a troubled kid. I don't know. I have no clue. but I could understand a parent potentially wanting to go about it in a particular direction, you know. So I'm willing to cut these people perhaps a little bit more slack in the first instance. I need food. I do need food. I need to make some scrambled eggs. I've had chocolate bars, and the chocolate bars are making me sick because it's all I've had today. And they're making me sick because I have too much sugar in my body, and I'm not happy. My body is rebelling against me because I've had too much sugar. I need some protein. So maybe I'll make some eggs when they come back, and you can deal with that my commentary for a while. Uncivil needs to eat. Just chocolate bars are not good for Uncivil. Everyone knows how to raise other people's kids. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's very true. Everyone knows how to raise other people's kids. Yeah, there you go. That's very, very true. You argued all the time against my husband's authoritarian complex. Yeah, there's different ways to parent a child, and authoritarianism isn't necessarily an invalid way to parent a child. I mean, it's a way to parent a child. It may be a valid way to parent a child, although it potentially has its own negative repercussions. You know, what is it? What is it that we say? There's no answers, only trade-offs. Yeah. There's no answers, only trade-offs. There's no answer on how to parent. There's only trade-offs. And you hope that you get the trade-offs right. You know? And don't leave your kids screwed up. And don't give them a complex. And don't give them reason to hate you. And you don't make them not safe. And you don't make them not, yeah, it can be challenging. And of course, no matter what you do, other parents will criticize you. That's not the right way to do it. That's not the right way to do it. Here's the right way to do it. Yeah, you can't win. You can't win. Yeah. Each child is, of course, different too. Yeah. That too. So you somewhat might have to adjust your style based on the child. That's fair too. Yeah, it's not the we would do it what makes you wrong. Yeah. I think there's a lot of parents who feel that way. I don't yeah, I think people are fast to criticize and also see and not see it in themselves. Because I have a sneaking suspicion that some of the parents who are like, I'd never handle my child this way, absolutely would. I feel like there's some parents out there who are like, yeah, I'd never do this with my child. This isn't the way I'd handle it. I'm like, yeah, you would. You just don't want to admit it to yourself. Yeah, you do that. Yeah. Yeah, so and so's kid is such a brat. My kid would never. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And sometimes we can't see what other people can see, especially when it's ourselves. That's really hard. Being objective about yourself is really, really hard. And I have no illusion that I can see myself as well as some of you can potentially see me. Now, I will note that you're getting an incomplete picture of me. While I am authentic on stream, it is part of who I am because I'm not necessarily displaying all my qualities because I'm not doing other things, right? So you would see different aspects of my personality if we went out together or we were bowling together or we were doing something else together. So it's not that I'm inauthentic. I'm authentic, but you're only seeing a piece of me because you're only seeing me do one thing. So, but I definitely am not under the illusion that I understand myself as well as someone else could understand me. Because seeing yourself objectively is really fucking hard. You know, it's really fucking hard. Yeah. And even seeing your own children, I imagine, is hard because you're too close to them. It's hard to see something that's really, really close to you sometimes because your own biases get in the way. And also, you don't know my situation. You don't know what's going on in my life. That's true. You don't know how you don't really fully understand how I feel. I mean, I can talk about it, but you can't feel it. So, yeah, you get an incomplete picture at best. But your incomplete picture may in some ways be more accurate than my self-assessment. So, that's the nature of the thing. However, the fact that I'm aware of that goes a long way to helping me. So the fact that I'm aware of my own blind spots is kind of nice. So I don't know if that's intelligence. I don't know if that's self-awareness. I don't know what that is. But it's like the very fact that I know that I don't know, or the very fact that I know that I'm blind, or the very fact that I know that I'm not objective is something. So it's like, well, that's a good thing. I don't think a lot of people can do it. I don't think there's a lot of people who can do it. I think I might be exceptional in that regard. I don't think there's a lot of people who can or are willing to admit that they don't understand themselves, are not aware of themselves. Other people might understand themselves better, understand them better. You know, it's like that's hard. So I'd like to give myself some credit on that. Damn. Have you ever had to tell your child not to fight back at school when a mob of teenagers beat you up and the videos posted so you don't get expelled? Yeah, preach. Yeah, preach. Yeah, insight is hard. Insight is hard. Self-awareness is hard. And I don't even claim to have perfect insight or perfect self-awareness. I'm just aware that there's an issue. That's about as good as I can do. Yeah. I'm not even saying I can see every blind spot. That would be one hell of a claim. I can see some blind spots. That's a start. They do the whole routine with cuffing her every time. Seems a little much, but okay. All right, friends and others, I'm going to take a break so that I can make myself some eggs and get some water. So I'm going to be away for a couple minutes. But I'll be back. You guys can talk amongst yourselves. You guys can handle it. Uncivil really needs some food. Uncivil's going to make some eggs.
Yes, sir.
I will be back.
You can retake the stand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. This is not Okay. Okay, may I continue? Okay, thank you. All right, so we've been sitting here going over March 9th, 2021. There was also some messages from March 8th, so the day before that you testified about. Do you recall those messages?
I do.
Okay. Do you recall, do you need to see those messages, or are you able to answer questions without?
I'd like to see them, not, yes, please.
Okay, so these are going to be, let's see here. This is Exhibit 84. Okay, Exhibit 84, can you see it up on your screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, these are texts that are between James and Jennifer Crumbley, correct?
Correct.
Now, these texts are confirming that Jennifer is saying she's swamped at work and is going to have to not go to the barn that night, correct?
I'm sorry, do you have a copy I can, don't scroll.
I don't know what I did with my copy. Let me just, I'm sorry. Here it is, it's right
You're
here.
just scrolling too fast.
Here you go. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
This is 84.
Thank you.
Do you want me to take these, or do you want to keep those?
Unless you're going to refer to them, I don't need them.
I'm not sure if I will, so we'll find out. Okay, so on Exhibit 84, these are the texts from the day before. March 9th are the texts where Ethan is sending those things saying there's somebody slamming the door or things like that, right?
Correct.
Okay, these are from the day before on March 8th, yes?
Correct.
And you testified about these texts from March 8th on direct, and those were admitted through the prosecution.
Correct.
Okay. On March 8th, the parents are talking about Ethan at the beginning of the text messages. Is that a fair statement?
At 3:09, Jennifer asks, is Ethan going bowling?
Okay, so on page 386, she starts
Yes.
off with, is Ethan going bowling? He says IDK, which is I don't know. We can agree
Correct.
on that. Okay. What do you mean, I don't know? Okay, goes down further. And Jennifer Crumbley on the 8th is asking at 3:12 in the afternoon, why isn't he home yet? Correct?
That's correct.
At 3:12 and 51 seconds, she says he should be home by now. Correct?
That's correct.
When she's saying he, we know that she's talking about Ethan, correct?
Correct.
And then it goes on at 3:12 and 56 seconds, she says freaking out, correct?
Correct.
And James responds to her at 3:13, so not even a minute later. He doesn't get home until 3:16, correct?
Correct. That's what he says, yes.
So these parents are communicating about when their son gets home down to the minute of when he can be expected, yes?
Correct.
Jennifer's text back to him is, I told you to pick him up because he's upset and I don't want him to do anything stupid, god damn it, correct?
Correct.
That's Jennifer saying that to James.
Correct.
On this date in March of 2021, Jennifer is working at Princeton at her job that's out in West Bloomfield, correct?
Correct.
And as far as you know, James at that time is a DoorDash driver working out in the Oxford area.
Correct.
And at that time, James was in between jobs, and if you don't know, please tell me, in between jobs and DoorDashing on the side as he was waiting for another job to come along, correct?
I do recall a text message about trying to be in interviews or something like that between them, yes.
Okay, and in all fairness, if I ask you something you don't know, just let me know.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm just trying to speed it up a little. Okay, so Jennifer's yelling at James, I don't want him to do anything stupid, goddammit. when she says that, it's fair to say you don't know what she means by I don't want him to do anything stupid, correct?
I have no idea, correct.
Okay, and James's response is, dude, chill, he is fine, and I'm trying to fucking work, correct?
Correct.
And Jennifer's texting back again, not even a minute later, does he have his phone? Yes?
Yes.
And James texts back right away, he won't answer while he's walking, I'll let you know the minute he walks in, correct?
Correct.
And Jennifer, within a minute of that, is sending another text. I'm serious, freaking out. Is he home yet? Those are the next two texts in succession, correct?
Correct.
It would appear from these text messages that Jennifer is voicing concern over Ethan.
In this one thread, yes.
Okay,
Correct.
and again, we're guessing if she's concerned about him, correct?
The language makes her like she's excited. I would say yes.
Okay, so the next day, when she's not responding to Ethan's text, again, we've gone over this ad nauseum. We don't know why she's not responding or what's going on in her head or if she's getting the messages, correct?
I don't know, yes.
You would agree with me in the text messages between Jennifer and James, and I'm sorry, they communicate way more by Facebook Messenger, correct?
Yes, they did.
Okay, and if I were to say that this is the printed out stack of Facebook messages between James and Jennifer, would that surprise you?
I don't, there were a lot of them, I can tell you that. I don't know what it would look like printed out yet. If you say that, I believe you.
Okay, approximately how many messages do you recall reviewing between them? Thousands?
Yes, thousands.
Okay, and in the messages, you read every one of these messages, correct?
Correct.
And when you were putting together information for the prosecution and for this investigation, you went through and found the evidence that's obviously brought into this trial.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Give me the question.
The evidence that's been admitted, these texts are texts you found when you read the whole thing.
Correct.
Okay, and obviously, if there were texts between Jennifer and James that said something like, I think Ethan's psychotic, you would have brought that in to this court, correct?
Just like the text we had where she said she was worried he was depressed, yes.
Okay, so, and I'm going to get to the text about him being depressed later, but if you saw something in these text messages, like, I think our son is a serious threat, you would have brought that in here to show this jury.
I don't understand the question. I mean, this chat was brought in because for an unknown reason, she's very excited or doesn't want to do anything stupid. I don't know what he would do that's stupid.
Right, okay, so you don't know what he would do that's stupid. Aside from that, though, my point is, we're not going to have this jury read all of the text and messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley, right?
Correct.
And in prepping for a trial, you bring in the ones that show the point you're trying to make, correct?
Correct.
So to do that, you read through all of them.
Correct.
And you pick out the ones that you think are important.
Correct.
And the ones that you've shown the jury are the most important ones you found.
Correct.
And we can agree that the balance of the messages, there's a lot more information that this jury is not going to see because it's not important to proving this case.
I'm sorry. What was give me the question again.
I'll ask a different question. It's fair to say throughout these texts, there are numerous conversations between James Crumbley and Jennifer Crumbley about their son.
Numerous?
Yes.
I wouldn't say numerous.
Okay, there's many conversations about, is he home yet from school?
There's some, yes.
Okay, there are conversations about him having to go to take headache medication.
I don't recall it. It might be that I don't recall headache medication. I remember him having a headache.
Okay, There are texts in here about what they're going to eat for dinner with their son.
Okay,
Do you agree?
correct, yes.
Okay, there's texts about all kinds of things that a mom and a dad would talk about that are not important in terms of proving this case, correct?
Correct,
Okay, and the most important information you found are the papers that have been admitted through the prosecutor.
correct.
Okay, and in the rest of the text messages, my point is, if you saw something that was more serious, like, I think Ethan's gonna shoot people, you would have brought that into court.
Just like the one, yes,
Okay.
we would have.
So, when we're looking at the
Judge, I
evidence.
just need to object to the form of the question. She's characterizing that he brings it into court. He doesn't bring it into court.
He's the investigator, the prosecutor decides what they're asking to be admitted, so.
Right, she's
He's
insinuating that he's taking certain things out and not telling anybody else, and everything's been turned over. I mean, it's the
I'm
same
not
argument.
insinuating that.
I'm starting to think it might be shorter to ask the jury to read that whole staff, right? Would that be shorter? Yeah.
Okay. My point and my question is, James and Jennifer discuss Ethan in other text messages.
Yes, they do.
And if there were text messages that showed evidence that either one of them believed Ethan was sick, mentally ill, anything along those lines, you would be pointing them out for this jury.
More than what we have, correct, yes.
Okay, what you have is the best evidence you could find after going through all of them.
That, like was said, that I turn over to the prosecution, yes.
Okay, and that's true too of the messages between Ethan and his friend, correct? In terms of the evidence you brought in, is the most important evidence you thought that was relevant to this case, correct?
Not entirely,
Same
no.
objection. It's the witness doesn't bring in evidence when he thinks is relevant. He's already testified. His job is to take the data, he extracts it from devices, and he passes along all the information.
The prosecutor decides.
Thank you.
I
Okay.
mean, it's a technicality, they work together, but the prosecutor is the one who decides what might be relevant and what might be admissible.
Okay. When you went through the cell phone reports, you read all of the messages between the shooter and his friend, the friend that the prosecution has not named, but the one friend that's been an issue in this trial, correct?
Correct,
You read through, there were over 25,000 messages exchanged between the shooter and his friend that came off of the phones.
correct.
If I told you that this was the amount of text messages all printed out, would you disagree with that?
I would not.
Okay. And when you went through and pulled out, we can agree that there's lots of different topics discussed among these text messages.
Correct,
And the text messages that were brought in and entered as evidence were from this large stack of text as a whole.
What was presented, I'm sorry,
They're in these,
yes,
they're from here.
yes, there was more information that was turned over, but
Right. Okay, so my point is though, the pieces, the materials that have been admitted and that you've been testifying about are a part of all of the messages between the shooter and his friend.
correct.
Judge, if counsel wants to continue with this, that's admissible. And she has asked it for it not to
I think
be.
you need to be really careful, okay? See, this is the conversation we had when we were picking the jury, that we are not trying to case of the shooter. So we've all endeavored to give you the things that are important to this case, that are not specific to the shooter's case. So, I don't want the jury to think that they are not allowed to see something, all right? So I don't want the jury to think that either side is hiding something, because they're not. There have been evidentiary rulings made over the last year and a half in this case, and those are rulings that I've made after extensive research and briefing and all those different things with the prosecutor and defense counsel. So I don't want you to think anything's being hidden. That's not a fair, characterization. So,
Judge, I'd ask the court to instruct counsel that you can't request certain things and then make this line of questioning without opening the door.
well, I do not want to try the shooter's case, okay? So let's not do that, right? Yeah, yes,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, so we've talked about March 8th, and we've talked about texts from March 9th, yes?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then you also testified about text messages that were sent on March 17th. Do you recall that?
I recall the date, yes.
And the overall point of those messages, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that on that date, the parents were at the barn together with their horses.
Those are the pictures, yeah. I don't remember, if you have a copy of the text messages that were in that day.
I can show you them if you
Can
need.
I make a request?
Yes.
Could you disassemble the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
Oh,
Because
sure.
Honestly, it looked like it was, I would hate you to have to reconstruct that. It just
Okay.
looked like it was gonna tip, and then you'd have to try to re-put it together, and that would take,
I'm sorry, Sean.
I'm hoping you're gonna be drinking a glass of wine in your sweatpants this weekend instead of
I'm gonna drink a bottle.
reassembling that file, so.
5 bottles
I
at this
just,
point.
it looked like it was gonna tip. so-
Okay, no, thank you.
All right.
All right. We talked about 3/8, we talked about 3/9, I'm going to 3/17. You asked me what text messages I'm talking about, and these are the exhibits that are around exhibits 83 through 86. Would you like me to bring you the text messages so that you can see those?
If you could, please, yes.
I think the March 17th starts with Exhibit 85.
Okay, now, on 85, we amended it, so there are texts that
I remember,
were...
yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then I'm also going to hand you right now what's on 86, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, the overall point of these text messages was to show that both of the parents were at the barn on March 17th, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and on that day, while they were at the barn on March 17th, the shooter was trying to get a hold of them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And on that date, we have cell phone evidence that was admitted in Exhibit 83 that shows, and tell me if I need to slow down, I can break this down more. An hour after the shooter was texting Jennifer Crumbley, she called him and had a phone conversation within an hour, correct?
Correct.
And that phone conversation lasted less than a minute,
Correct. I remember that.
and you have no idea what was said during that phone conversation.
No, I do not.
You have no idea what happened after Jennifer left the barn that day, or James left the barn.
No, I do not.
You have no knowledge that the family, whether they were together that night or not, correct?
Correct.
You've done the best you can do to put together the information with materials you have.
Correct.
Okay, so we've talked about March 17th. Now I want to talk about March 20th. I'm sorry, the 19th and the 20th. On March 19th, there were text messages that were introduced, and tell me if you need them, they're exhibits 95 through 100, where there's a discussion about Ethan waking up and seeming hungover. Do you recall those?
I do, yes.
Would you like me to give you those?
I just like having a copy in my
Yeah,
hand or
that's-
on the screen either way. Thank you.
Food was glorious, my friends.
Okay,
Food
so
was
here's exhibit-
glorious.
This is 95,
4 eggs scrambled,
and I'm gonna put 95
cheddar
up on the screen.
cheese,
So now
salt,
we're talking
pepper.
about March.
little hot sauce,
Can you, Sean, can you please?
2 pieces of toast with butter. Num. Num, num, num. I've now had food other than
All right,
chocolate
so we're
bars.
looking at,
So maybe my
exhibit
body will hate me
95,
less.
Okay, which has been admitted. And this is from March 18th, correct?
1995?
Okay, exhibit 95 is from March 18th.
It's,
How's it looking so far?
It goes over
Hard to
multiple
tell.
days. Okay, may I
Hard to
consider
tell.
exhibit 96 also?
Sure.
Okay, there's 2 that are in order and they both contain multiple days, correct?
correct.
Okay, so I'm sorry, this is a little bit confusing because we've got 2 different dates on 2 different exhibits. Okay, so I'm gonna go to 96 first. These texts actually come before 95. On this date, these are the texts where Ethan says, I just finished picking up the room. I cleaned until shelves or clothes started flying off the shelf. This stuff only happens when I'm home alone, correct?
Why did I just eat
Correct.
chocolate
Okay,
bars?
and
Because
am
I woke up at
totally
7:30 to
off.
get
I
on
am so
stream,
sorry.
and I've been streaming, and I haven't had
17th.
time because I did a power nap thing, so I was so tired, so I didn't have food, and all I had was chocolate bars because they were available, and I was hungry. So
95 is, it says is the,
I'm not saying it was a good choice. I'm just saying, yeah.
Yes, and 85 is one that I cannot display because it's been redacted. So I'm asking if the prosecution can please put 85 up on the screen.
can you put rejected 85 on the screen?
I kind of just need a minute, Doug.
What kind of bars? They're one I actually specially ordered because I was interested in it. They're not actually sold in the U.S. As far as I'm aware. I had to special order them. But Nestle's Coffee Crisp.
So on
I heard good
85,
things and I wanted to
this is
try
on
'em.
March 17th.
So I got a box of
This
them.
is the text where it started
They're
off,
pretty
I'm
good.
gonna get drunk and ride my horse. Jennifer Crumbley sent that at 1:30 p.m.
Correct.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Mr. Keys, can you please scroll down? Okay, Jennifer Crumbley's indicating that afternoon, I hate my job. Can you bring Outlast, please? And I don't know what that means, you don't know what that means. Would you agree with that?
I don't know what she's referring to.
I don't either. Okay, can you go down, please? Okay, Jennifer Crumbley indicates at 4:02 that she's left work, yes?
Correct.
I'm sorry, I might be going too fast.
Nope, you're good.
Okay, and then if we can go down more, please.
My body has been very angry at me.
That jumped
My
exhibit.
body is extremely angry at me right now. So
That's the end.
Oh, I'm sorry. So 85, can you go to the?
just eggs will be fine for now.
Because it jumped to 86.
Yeah, they're not particularly coffee-ish. I was expecting a little bit more.
So on 402, at 4:02, Jennifer Crumbley said she left work.
Correct.
Okay, and the important thing about the 17th is showing that on that date, she was at the bar.
Correct.
And the next day is on the 18th, when we have the text messages about, I'm sorry, March
Yeah, I've
18th.
tried weight loss
Is it
meds
95?
before.
Do you have 95 in your hand?
I might try them
Yes,
again
I
at
do
some
not.
point.
It would be easier probably just.
Yeah, I think I was on Wegovy for a while, but
I'm
getting
obviously
supplies
have to do
hard
that.
and
I'm
it's
just
kind
having
of
to
too
get closer to
expensive.
these pages. Do
So-
you have exhibit 95?
I have 96.
But yeah. But Vyvanse causes people to lose weight, and Wellbutrin
so
causes
sorry
people to
that
lose
this is
weight,
a mess.
so hopefully
I-
some of that will work sometime too.
Okay. On March 19th, I've got it up on the screen. This is when Jennifer Crumbley and James Crumbley are talking about Ethan acting like or seeming like he was way hungover that day, correct?
Correct.
And it appears from the text that Jennifer is asking if he's okay. She says, "How is he?"
Correct.
Okay. Why is this doing this now? I am gonna kill myself. Okay. Okay. So he woke up acting like he had way too much to drink last night, complaining about a headache. That's what James said back to Jennifer, correct?
Correct.
And, okay, Your Honor, I need like a minute, and I'm so sorry. Now I've got exhibits that are doubled on the page, and I'm having a really tough time with the exhibits. I apologize to the jury. Can I please have a minute?
Okay, well, I'm probably not gonna excuse them because, are
Can
you
you
able
help
to
me?
do?
I'm not sure I trust compounded Wegovy.
Yeah, I'm trying to just.
be honest.
I'm gonna excuse them and send them home. I was hoping to finish this witness. I have this task.
Yeah, I'm not sure I trust compounded Wegovy.
So, I like to.
You know what, we can just leave it 2 pages on the screen. So right now it's got on 440, page 441's on the left, 442 is on the right. Okay, so starting with 441, this is where the text says, well, he was really worked up and out of control, so I can see why. This is after they're talking about him waking up, correct?
Correct.
And Jennifer Crumbley texts, all I know is he needs to eat, go to work hard, not complain, and he can get his stuff back, correct?
Correct.
And James ends up saying that Ethan asked, why was I in your room last night?
Correct.
And Jennifer ultimately says she gave him a melatonin pill, or a melatonin tablet.
Correct.
And James says to her, I thought you gave him a Xanax last night.
Correct.
And it's evident from this that Ethan, or the shooter, their son, slept in their bed that night.
Correct.
And it appears that on March 19th, as the parents are talking, there was some kind of argument where something happened with their son the night before.
Correct.
And we don't know anything about what happened the night before on March 18th that preceded this whole conversation.
Correct.
It appears from the conversation on the 19th that something was taken away from him.
I was on Monjourno, that's what it was.
It implies he can get his stuff.
I was on Monjourno
Question
for a
on the
while.
Question, he can't testify what it implies or.
That was
what
good, but you know, getting supplies
I'll restate
difficult,
that.
and the price is
text
outrageous.
explicitly says if he does these things, he can get his stuff back.
Correct.
Okay.
I had pretty decent success with
All right.
Monjourno, though.
Now I'm going to skip ahead to the 20th of March in 2021. On the 20th, we admitted exhibits 97 through 100.
The 96 are text messages dated March 20th. And the 97 starts with some pictures.
Okay. So 96 are the text messages that are up on the screen. Do you see those?
Yes, I do. I have
Okay.
them.
And it's on the 20th that the shooter is saying things like, I cleaned up and clothes started flying off the shelf. He's making other claims that something is happening that's not normal, correct?
I would say yes.
Okay, he's making claims that
My
things
Amazon truck is
happen
9
when he's
stops
home
away.
alone and trying to make his mother think things are
Should be here in
fine
about an
off
hour
the
or
shelf.
two. Pretty
That's
exciting.
what he said, yes.
Okay, and you don't see any response.
I don't think I could do any
from
better, really, than
that
she's
day.
doing, really, on this line of argument.
And you
I have no
showed
particular
the
objection to the way
jury
she's
the
arguing. I
exhibit
wouldn't
of
necessarily
these
say I want to
exhibits
kill
to
myself,
show
but,
on
other
day
than that.
She was at the barn again, correct?
Correct.
Now, you don't know what they talked about before or after she got home from the barn?
Correct.
All we know are that we have these couple of text messages making it sound like something is flying around in the house from her son.
Semi-glued-eyed, yeah, no
Remember the question.
compound.
He testified to
I'm
what
not
she
sure I
found
trust the
under
compounded
bodies.
drugs.
He doesn't know beyond that.
I'm just not sure I trust them.
He wasn't there.
I think with semi-glued-eyed, like it's still under
And
patent
so-
protection, so I'm not sure
around
what they're
The
what they're
20th,
doing there in terms of that. I'm not
Mrs.
sure even how they're
Crumbley,
compounding it.
Is obviously at the barn. So we've talked now about March 8th, March 9th, the 17th, 19th, and 20th, correct?
Correct.
So we can agree that from the 8th through the 20th, we're talking about a period in time that's about 12 days long.
Correct.
And we've seen bits of the 8th, the 9th, 17th, 19th, and 20th.
Correct.
Okay. In April 4th are the dates of the texts between the shooter and his friend, correct?
I would, there was a lot of text messages, I would assume, I believe they texted on that day.
Okay. And I believe it is Exhibit 101. Okay. I have 101 on the screen. Do you recall these?
Correct, yes, I do.
Okay. Now, these texts on April 4th are between, we agree that they are between the shooter and his friend.
Yeah, now I have to find.
correct.
Now I have to
This
actually
is
find
not a
supply
group
of
chat
Vyvanse. That's going to be
where
fun.
Mrs. Crumbley is on it.
That's correct.
There is no evidence that these texts were ever forwarded.
Thank you for the
to
super
Jennifer
chat. Appreciate it,
Crumbley.
Tim.
Correct.
There is no evidence
Shortage means
to
they can make
show
it?
that Jennifer Crumbley ever saw these text messages.
I'm not sure I trust these people.
Correct.
For example, there isn't a text like, oh my gosh, you should see what our son sent to his friend today. There's nothing along those lines, correct?
Well, not in this group, are you talking about this chat still?
I'm just saying in general, if you found evidence that Jennifer Crumbley saw these texts, that would be important.
If she saw it, I would say yes.
Okay, and we don't have anything to show she saw them.
Not that was on the phone, no.
So, on this text thread between the shooter and his friend, he talks about how he hears people talking and he sees someone in the distance, correct?
That's correct.
There's no response from his friend.
Correct.
We don't know if his friend saw those texts and didn't respond, or if his friend didn't.
No,
see
there's
those
a
texts,
compounding
and the
pharmacy
shooter
in
just
Texas
kept
that will
texting,
sell to me.
Right?
They came in rapid order, so yeah, they were one after another, correct.
Okay, so this is around, so 11:56, and then we go down 11:57, says, it's at the point that I'm asking to go to the doctor.
I don't think
Okay,
prescription
that's one
covers any of
texts
this
that you
stuff.
testified about, correct?
Correct.
There are not any texts where the shooter is saying anything to his mom and dad about, I want to go to the doctor.
Correct.
While he,
I love
while the
Vyvanse.
shooter is saying this
I love
to his
Vyvanse.
friend, we don't have
It's been
any evidence
fantastic for
that
me.
It's true.
It's as close to a
whether the
miracle
shooter
drug as
really
I've ever
wanted
had
to
in
go
my
to the
life.
doctor or not, correct?
I mean, he said it a couple times, and they talked about everything.
And all the times that he talked about it,
It has
he was
rapidly
curious
improved
seeing.
my
You brought
depression
that in.
with
You
no
never
perceivable
brought that
side
in. I'm sorry,
effects.
I keep
I am a
saying
very
that.
happy camper on
The evidence
Vyvanse.
in this case is showing the jury what you gleaned from your investigation.
I don't understand, I'm sorry.
Okay. In the investigation, there is not you don't have any text messages where the shooter...
Now, here's an article from the New York Times in 2023 raising concerns about compounded Ozempic.
That's correct.
Okay, if that did exist, the jury would be seeing that.
That would have been turned over to the prosecution, yes.
Okay. So in this case, when the shooter says, it's at the point I'm asking to go to the doctor, my mom laughed when I told her, again, you have no idea if Mrs. Crumbley ever saw these texts between the shooter and his friend.
Correct.
And we can agree we don't have any more context than just this text thread that exists between these two.
Judge, again,
I'm taking generic
very
5 hands.
close to running afoul of the motion that she filed to preclude evidence, Judge. There is a lot of context, but counsel
Your
requested
Honor,
motions.
this is making it sound like there's evidence being hidden, and there's not.
Okay, well, I've said there's no evidence being hidden. There's no evidence being hidden. But, okay, so ask the next question.
Okay.
You're not aware of any communication between the shooter and his mother?
No,
Asking.
correct.
Okay. And when the shooter texts his friend, I was thinking of calling 911 so I could go to the hospital and text, I need help. There are no 911 calls, correct?
Correct.
There are no text messages to Mr. or Mrs. Crumbley saying those same types of things.
Correct.
And when he says, I am going to ask my parents to go to the doctor tomorrow or Tuesday again, we obviously don't know if that's true.
Correct.
And when he says, but this time I'm going to tell them about the voices, okay, that's the next text, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Your insurance covers Wegovy?
In his words,
Does like a double check.
he did not send that information to his mom and dad as far as you can see from his messages with them.
Correct.
So when we're talking about this whole text thread, where at the end he says, like, I am mentally...
I've been happy on the generic 5 hands so far.
You also don't have any evidence that the friend who received these showed them to the shooter's mom, correct?
Correct.
There's no evidence that his friend did anything with these text messages beyond the fact that they exist.
Correct.
We don't know if...
Judge, we just need to clarify. There's thousands and thousands of text messages. She needs to be more specific. Is she asking to comment on the 20,000-page text thread? Is she asking to comment on certain days? It isn't fair to the witness who reviewed all this information.
Okay, well, is there any evidence that the friend shared anything with the parents?
Not that I know of.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, let's see if my insurance covers any of these things. If so, I'll add it to the list.
Now, on April 29th, okay, so we've talked now about April 4th and 5th, the text between the shooter and his friend. Okay, we just finished that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now I want
I don't
to
think
go
she
to
sounds that
April
much like Danny on
29th,
Direct. Danny on Direct
and
has a
this
more
is exhibit
chipper,
number 104.
affect.
You testified about a text thread that went between Jennifer Crumbley and the shooter's friend's mother, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in this text thread, the moms are, you would agree with me, talking about the difficulties of online school and how it's wreaked havoc, essentially, on their kids.
Correct.
Okay? And they start off by talking because Jennifer is telling the friend's mother that Ethan is not going to bowling, correct?
Correct.
And she says he's been acting kind of depressed. I don't know what's going on, correct?
Correct.
And she says, I'm not sure if there's something bothering him at school. He doesn't really feel good. I can't get anything out of him, correct?
Correct.
She doesn't say anything in here like he's seeing things, he's hallucinating, I'm noticing that he's paranoid, correct?
Correct.
She uses the word, he appears to be somewhat depressed. Depressed is the word she uses.
Correct.
In terms of the word depressed, that could have meanings.
Objection, speculation.
Yeah, I can sort of see a tired Danny. I can see a tired Danny in her voice. Yeah.
That
I see where that's
actually
coming
my
from.
Exact question was just, you can't explain what it means. That was my question.
It means different things to different people, different professions.
You answered my question. That was my question. Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, may I continue?
Yes.
Okay. So then they're talking about how the shooter and his friend are happy when they're together, and Mrs. Crumbley was.
Yeah, I definitely see
concerned
some
text
similarities
messages
in her voice to
that there
Danny.
could
I
be
see where
something
you're
going on
getting
between the
that.
shooter and his friend, but it's clear that's not an issue, correct?
Your husband thought the attorney was my
So,
daughter talking?
these text messages, Mrs.
That's funny.
Crumbley is, you would agree with me. that
That's funny.
overall,
Your husband thought the
she is
attorney was your daughter. That's
indicating an
cute.
interest in figuring out what's wrong with her son.
She's pointing out things that she's aware of.
Okay? And this text thread, there are more texts between Jennifer Crumbley and the friend's mother, correct?
Correct.
And there's one other set that we're going to talk about, but this evidence about, there's not any further explanation of what the word depressed means in the messages or not, correct?
Correct.
All we have is what's in these text messages. I'm sorry, scratch that. Okay, so this is on 4/29. We can agree that obviously on that date, Mrs. Crumbley made representations using the word depressed.
Correct.
The next set of text messages with the shooter's friend's mother were admitted as Exhibit 105. And we can agree these are months and months later, in October of 2021, correct?
That's correct.
So this jury is seeing texts from April 29th and then October 31st.
That's correct.
On October 31st, there is discussion between Jennifer and the shooter's friend's mother about the decision they had to make to send the friend away, correct?
There wasn't discussion. She didn't reply back till the 4th of November, but Jennifer texted her or sent a message to her.
Okay, send a message to her asking how they're doing, saying they're thinking about them.
Correct.
Okay, and the friend's mom writes back talking about how hard it is. I appreciate you checking on our family, those kind of things, correct?
Correct.
And in these texts, Jennifer mentions, I know Ethan misses him, meaning his friend, correct?
Correct.
And she's asking just how things are going for the friend who's away.
Correct.
Okay. Now, at the end of these text messages, there's a few texts from December of 2021, correct?
Correct.
Now, those text messages are not about anything related to the shooter being sad or depressed, correct? Those text messages are after the shooting has taken place, correct?
Correct.
And those text messages,
Okay, so Zep-bound is not
there's
covered by
not
my
many.
insurance, so that's
we're only
out.
talking about a couple. The friend's mother asks if Ethan is safe on November 30th, correct?
Correct.
So on the day of the shooting, when the friend's mother asks at 3:47, is Ethan home safe?
Well, let's see,
It would
Monjourno
be fair, and if you don't know the
is
answer, you can tell
for type
me.
2 diabetes,
It would
but I
be
don't
fair
have
to assume
that.
She's asking, is he safe from the shooting?
He can't answer that question, and these are Facebook messages, not text.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
Okay. So Jennifer Crumbley says, I'm sure you've seen the news, and ultimately says, I'm sick to my stomach, correct?
Correct.
And she mentions to the friend's mother that they're getting threats all over social
Semaglutide isn't even listed in
which is
the
something we talked about
prescription
earlier,
regulations, so I'm
correct?
pretty
Correct.
sure that's not
And
covered.
she also says that they're staying in a hotel.
Yeah, I don't think anything.
because
I don't think
the
anything along these
news
lines is
their
covered by my
house,
insurance.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah, well, Zep-bound is listed on the schedule. It's listed as not covered.
During your testimony, you admitted some GPS
Plan exclusion.
location information.
It's plan
Yes.
exclusion.
And if you need to see the exhibits, let me know, but I think these will be simple questions. When you provided the jury evidence that James was at the gun store on the 26th, we can agree Jennifer was not at the store when the gun was purchased, correct?
Correct.
And when that day, there was a video on the 26th that the shooter made of him holding the gun. It's a short video that was admitted as Exhibit 417. Do you recall that little video?
Yes, I do.
And in that little video, we can't see who else is around while the shooter is...
Is there a difference
filming
between
himself
not covered and plan
with
exclusion?
that Sig Sauer gun.
In the video, correct.
And we don't know, obviously, who was present in the home or in the room even with him.
Correct.
That was the day the gun was bought,
Correct.
and the shooter took that video himself, as far as we can tell,
It was on his phone, yes. It was on his
and,
phone.
and he, and it was a video that he sent to...
I'm very overweight. I'm a lot more overweight than you think.
Back up.
I'm extremely overweight.
There
You'd be
were also
surprised how much I weigh.
photographs taken that day of the gun,
Correct.
the day they purchased it.
Correct.
Jennifer Crumbley actually posted a photo that was taken of the gun.
After they went to the gun range?
No, the day before, on Friday, the day the gun was bought. And if you don't recall, you can just, I believe it came in through the witness before you, and so if you don't know, you can just let me know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Weight loss drugs shouldn't be covered by insurance. Gym memberships
So the
aren't.
gun was purchased
I don't know about
on
that.
the 26th, and the next day
It's obviously a
is
health problem, so
Saturday,
I don't know about that.
the 27th, correct?
Correct.
On the 27th, we know that James Crumbley was door dashing that day.
Correct.
That's the day that the shooter and his mother went to the gun range.
Correct.
That is the day where there was posts about a mother-son experience at the range, in terms of shooting the gun, going to shoot the gun.
I remember those, yes.
Okay, now, there is not any information about where the gun was stored or placed in the Crumbley's home overnight between the 26th and the 27th.
Judge, I'm going to object. These exhibits weren't introduced to this witness. It's inappropriate to ask this witness of those questions. Agent Brandon testified yesterday. It's the same questions that she asked to him at cross-examination.
Lugovi's excluded.
Foundation to give that sort of testimony.
Well, I guess I don't understand the question. Are you asking, is there any communication on that?
And Sendextra is not listed. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get any weight loss drugs, guys.
Were they restored or were they?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you?
On the phones, no, I did not find.
Also, on the very minimum, he should be given the opportunity to review the exhibit before he's asked the question.
I don't know if she specifically asked him about it.
She was asking about Instagram posts.
Oh, the Instagram phone, okay. All right, there's no Instagram.
I'm not going to go through an appeal with my insurance. I can't be bothered with the time and energy. It's just not worth my time and energy.
No, ma'am.
Okay,
You didn't see
so,
any locked guns on Instagram?
Locked guns, no.
and the evidence that you showed us from the 27th, there's not any information about who put the gun in the vehicle that drove the gun to the...
I am well into the morbidly obese
to the
category.
shooting range, correct?
I don't know anything about that.
We don't know anything about who did anything aside from the fact that we know...
I am extremely
when
morbidly
Mrs.
obese.
Crumbley and her son went over
The scale doesn't go high enough for me.
I don't know anything about the transportation of the gun, no.
Okay. We know when they got to the range that Mrs. Crumbley and her son went in and they shot some targets, correct?
Correct.
We,
Well, the ATF guy testified to that, do you know that?
What, what,
Video?
I do know the video, yes.
Oh,
The
okay.
gun range video?
All right,
I have seen it.
okay.
okay. And in terms of the text messages and all the evidence that you have reviewed, from the night of the 27th to the 28th, there are not any text messages or Facebook messages about where the gun was that night, where it was in the home, where it was in general, correct?
Correct, I don't know anything
Okay.
about that.
In these same days that the Crumbleys, that Mr. Crumbley bought the gun and Mom and the shooter went to the shooting range, from the evidence that you've talked about in front of the jury, it's clear one of their horses has some kind of an issue, a health issue going on, correct?
Correct.
So as the evidence is unfolding about what's happening on those days in terms of what the parents were doing, there's also talk about medication for the horse and things along those lines.
Correct.
When you testified about
The last time I
the
checked my
search
BMI, I
on
think it was
Mrs.
48.
Crumbley's phone about clinical depression, you don't know anything other than what was typed in when she searched for information about clinical depression, correct?
Correct.
You don't know if that was her looking up information for herself?
Correct.
You don't know if that's looking for information about the shooter?
Correct.
Or if it's looking up information about some other person?
That's correct.
On the 29th, that was a Monday. Does that sound right?
Yes, ma'am.
Of November.
Of November.
And yes.
I'm sorry, of November.
Yes.
Okay. And that was the day that the voicemail was left that was played as evidence as Exhibit 115 from Miss Fine. Do you know what voicemail I'm talking about?
Yes, I recall it.
Okay. So going a little bit backwards, that day, on that Monday, the voicemail indicates that Ethan
Yeah,
was
for
caught
sure.
looking at bullets on his phone, correct?
That's correct.
The voicemail, we saw lots of evidence, was left on Jennifer's cell phone.
Correct.
We know Jennifer Crumbley listened to the voicemail.
That's correct.
We all heard the voicemail.
Correct.
And the voicemail did not ask Jennifer Crumbley to call back.
I'm sorry, my
Return the
BMI
phone
is
call,
50.
Correct?
I don't believe so.
That message indicated that Ethan was not in any trouble, but the teacher wanted, or Ms. Fine wanted to make Mrs. Crumbley aware that
Judge,
they
the
had a
exhibit
discussion.
speaks for itself. He can't interpret the exhibit.
Yeah, that's the best evidence of what was said, right?
Okay.
They could, you could.
$350 a month is very expensive for me, Stacy.
The conversation, in that conversation, there is talk about I can play the exhibit. I'm just going to ask about one quote, and if I need to play the exhibit, then I'll play it.
Okay, let's hear the question.
At the end of the voicemail, Ms. Fine says that it's perfectly normal and healthy.
I can't remember what she was referring to when she said that, but I do remember those words.
Okay. The tone of that conversation was not one that, well, I'm sorry. The content of that conversation did not ask Mrs. Crumbley to come over to the school or anything along those lines, correct?
Correct.
And then we did see evidence that you testified about showing that Mrs. Crumbley asked her son about that voicemail, correct?
Correct.
And her text to him was evidence we saw as Exhibit
Shut up,
117, where she writes to her son,
I'll take drugs if I have to.
bullets,
But I'll take
correct?
anything that helps me.
Correct.
And we saw the exchange in Exhibit 117. The shooter writes back to her, I'm in no trouble.
Correct.
Judge, counsel has to show the witness the exhibits
I can do that. I'm sorry.
in the entire exhibit.
Okay, we'll do the whole thing. All right, so this is Exhibit 117. And as I asked, and I think you already answered, it starts off seriously, looking up bullets in school.
Correct.
And the Jennifer's son responds, I already went to the office for that. He admits he was. We can agree that's the content of this conversation, correct?
Was that he went to the office for that? That's the last thing you said.
He says that I already went to the office for that.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so I'm moving down, and he's explaining, or at least texting, what he was looking up and saying it's because he was curious.
Correct.
In his words, on page 199, he says completely harmless.
Correct.
And based on the voicemail that we heard from Ms. Fine, it sounded like,
Objection sounded like,
okay, I apologize. I'll move on. Jennifer told her son the school left me a voicemail, correct?
Correct.
And asked her son, did you show them your new gun?
Correct.
And obviously he says, no, he did not, and he says, I did not show them the pic, my God,
Correct.
okay? Again, says it was a harmless act.
I think the jury's tuned out long ago, to be honest. I'm not sure what's
Gives
happening
more
at this point, to be honest.
explanation to her,
Correct.
and ultimately, at the end of the conversation, he asks if he can hear the voicemail later, and she says she saved it.
Correct.
I really need to go to the gym today.
After that, there's conversation that was admitted in Exhibit 118. I've put it on the screen.
Judge, if counsel's just
I don't think I've been to the
reading
gym since
exhibits,
Sunday.
Cross-examination, and I want to get to my redirect. I want to finish this witness
Go ahead and
today.
finish this witness.
Your Honor, I find that when I'm asking questions, if I don't go step by step, I have to go backwards and go step by
You
step by
have to
step
follow
by
the rules of
step.
evidence. You can't ask the witness to
It's-
guess.
Yeah,
There are
turn
some
on.
questions that could just simply be answered, and they're not being answered. So I have to go step by step by step
Okay,
when
let's
it's
do
not
it.
happening.
Let's do it. Well, yeah, but they're sort of hearing the same. Direct, so.
The evidence that was admitted as Exhibit 118 shows there was a conversation between James and Jennifer Crumbley about the issue with the bullets at school.
Correct.
We went through the timeline from November 30th, 2021 in great detail earlier. You would agree with that.
Correct.
And obviously, you've collected all of the information you could from the 30th off the cell phones of James Crumbley, Jennifer Crumbley, and the shooter to look at in your investigation.
Correct.
It's fair to say that you did not seek a search warrant for people at the school who dealt with the shooter that day.
Hold on. To clarify the form of the question, seek a search warrant for the people at the school. That's not even an investigative
Who?
method.
Okay,
The search warrant for who?
For the people, right, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot.
all right, sorry, I'll back up.
And for what?
Okay, you're aware that Jennifer and James Crumbley went to the school. We saw the video of them walking in for the appointment, correct?
Correct.
You're aware they met with Sean Hopkins.
Correct.
You're aware there was conversation in a meeting.
Correct.
You did not at any time seek the messages off of the devices of Mr. Hopkins, correct?
That's not for me to decide. That's the officer in charge of the case to decide what to collect and bring to me to get data for them.
Okay, so that's not something you did. That's my only question.
It's not something that we would do in computer crimes, correct?
Now, when the text was sent at 9:31, the first thing that Mrs. Crumbley, that we can tell she received that morning that was of alarm was the altered math sheet that the shooter had written on, correct?
Could you pull it up real quick just so I could see?
Sure. So that was Exhibit 123.
Correct, okay.
Okay, so Exhibit 123, now, when we say altered math sheet, the shooter initially wrote things on a math paper that was introduced as a different exhibit. It was introduced as Exhibit 74. And I'll open that up. So I've got Exhibit 74 on the right, and we can agree that was initially what the shooter wrote on his math paper.
Correct.
And after writing all the writings on Exhibit 74, he added to the math paper and added the things that we see on Exhibit 123.
Correct.
Now, the first thing that Mrs. Crumbley receives is Exhibit 123, which is the altered drawing, correct?
Correct.
And in terms of what's on the drawing, it speaks for itself, but it has things like, I love my life so much, harmless act, we're all friends here. It has a bunch of writings like that on there. The jury can see what's on there. it speaks for itself, fair to say?
It does, yes.
Okay. And when Mrs. Crumbley got that, we know that she immediately, because we have the timestamps, sent Mr. Crumbley a message to let him know that something was going on.
Correct.
And in the text messages, or Facebook messages, which were admitted as Exhibit 125, and I'll put it up. It's specifically, Mrs. Crumbley specifically sent photos over to, I'm sorry, scratch that. Jennifer's first message at 9:33 says, "Call now," now being in capital letters, correct?
Correct.
And emergency.
Correct.
And her next text right after says emergency again.
Correct.
And then we know that Mr. Crumbley texts back.
Correct.
And that's in a separate, it's further down in the thread. And his response is, "My God, WTF," which stands for what the fuck, correct?
Correct.
So the parents, we can agree that as soon as the math paper is received by Jennifer Crumbley, there's conversation between the parents.
Correct.
In addition to the messages, there's also phone conversation.
Correct.
And at 10:04, we know that Jennifer Crumbley is heading to the school, physically going to the school, correct?
Correct.
And at 10:05, we can see she's sending texts saying, "I'm very concerned."
Correct.
We know, obviously, they get to the school and have a meeting with the counselor.
Correct.
And we know that that meeting only lasted 12 minutes long. That was your testimony.
Correct.
We don't have any kind of record or recording of that meeting in the counselor's office.
Not that I'm aware of. Correct.
After leaving the counselor's office, we have the text messages that Jennifer Crumbley sent Kira Pennick.
Correct.
Okay? We have text messages that Jennifer Crumbley sent Andy Smith, which were introduced and admitted.
Correct.
And it's fair to say that Jennifer Crumbley is telling at least those people about what's going on with her son, or that she's dealing with something.
Correct.
Now, we know Jennifer Crumbley goes back to work. We saw the exhibit showing her re-entering back at her office.
Correct.
Okay? And we know that at some point, there's obviously a notice out that was admitted. The Oxford High School has there's an alarm of an active shooter, correct?
Yes. Correct.
Upon hearing that, we saw all of the evidence about Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley heading back to the school, correct?
Correct.
And all of that evidence speaks for itself in terms of the timeline of events that happened. And you went through those times on the record already, so we don't need to do that again.
Correct.
In those messages, there was not anything from Jennifer Crumbley saying anything along the lines of, I think Ethan might shoot people today.
It's actually the form of the question, anything along the lines.
Okay, I'll rephrase. Jennifer Crumbley, the text messages that we have are the extent of the text messages. You've provided everything from November 30th. Everything we've gone through, there's not more text messages that this jury's not seen. Is that a fair statement? On November 30th.
On November 30th.
Correct.
Okay. And we can see the messages that Jennifer sent over to her son at the time. You introduced those when you testified.
Correct.
And there's various exchanges, obviously between them that speak for themselves, and the jury can read those.
There were changes, yes.
Okay. And there is a message that says, ultimately from Mrs. Crumbley, and if you need to see it, you can let me know, Ethan, don't do it.
After he was in custody, yes. That message was sent.
And at the time that message was sent, we don't know what Jennifer Crumbley knew in her head.
Correct.
All we can do is look at the evidence and read what's before us and what's been admitted in the testimony.
In the text messages?
Yes.
Correct.
You testified about alarm images in Exhibits 149. Do you recall that?
I do, yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna just put up 149 and 150. Okay, and I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. This was an alarm clock on the track phone. Is that right?
Correct.
So this is an alarm clock set for 6:30 in the morning and 6:45 in the morning that would have been for Saturday, December 4th.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, so these alarms, from what you can tell, were set on the day before, on the 3rd.
Correct.
I think B-Fish is talking to me.
Okay. And then again, there was some testimony, and I believe we've mostly covered this.
What's that, B-Fish? What did you say?
Ultimately, when you looked at the cell phone, between Jennifer Crumbley and Kira Pennick,
I'm about to go
you
swim in the
testified, I
ocean.
believe, that there were 26 messages still on the phone.
Correct.
And from the data, you could see there was actually 4,047 that existed at one time between them.
Correct.
So obviously, many messages had been deleted between Kira and Jennifer Crumbley by Jennifer Crumbley on her phone.
That's correct.
And again, there's not any texts or anything that say that have explanations about deleting things. All we know is that they were deleted.
Correct. You said yes.
May I have one moment, please?
Hi, everyone. Callie. Have you been having
So-
fun?
There's also, I just have one
I've
point
been
of
having
clarification,
fun.
and then I'm done, promise. There are some messages that say that they are unsent. What's the difference between unsent or deleted?
Deleted would tell me that it's just not there anymore. You would delete the message that says it was unsent even.
Callie.
Okay,
Callie the
so
bee-fish.
the unsent messages,
It's the best
possible
bee-fish
for someone
for
to
you
send
and
a
me.
message to someone else, but before it's
It's
received,
Callie.
unsend it and recall
Callie
it.
the
Is that a fair
bee-fish.
statement?
I believe also if it was received, that you
He'll hang out
Yeah.
with
Okay.
you and
throughout
me.
some of the evidence we've seen,
Callie.
there it appears.
Hello
that
everyone, my name is
messages
Callie,
were
and today we're gonna
unsent.
have a fun adventure together. We're gonna have a fun adventure together, yay! I'm Callie. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Today.
Uncivil Laws let me have
Few
control of a station for a while, and I thought I'd speak to you directly today because, you know, I don't really
let's
get a
talk
chance
first
to really
about
speak to you very
deleted
much, and I really love you guys.
Message between Jennifer and Brian Maloche.
Oh my God, is
look
the
at
crossover?
It didn't just say unsent.
Cross-examination's over?
X,
Unbelievable,
zipping
look it.
next to it. What does that
Beefy.
signify to you?
that it is deleted.
Okay, so clearly Jennifer Crumbley knew how to delete those messages.
Correct.
Okay, and in fact, she deleted ones that said, "We're on the run again,"
That's correct.
and "We're fucked."
Correct.
Okay, and I want to talk to you just really quickly about this word right here. It was a harmless act. That signify anything to you?
Yes, it does. It was
How
al-
so?
It was also written on the modified math paperwork.
Harmless act, right there. Okay, that's Exhibit 123. And Jennifer was sent that,
Correct.
and she was sent that on November the 30th before the shooting.
That's correct.
She was also sent this, People 74. And on People 74, the shooter wrote, "Help me."
Correct.
She was sent that, and she saw that.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And then she communicated about that with her husband.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you were asked lots and lots and lots of questions about, is there any evidence of, did you find any evidence of certain topics? So, specifically with deleted content, you can't tell if there's something that was deleted but unable to be recovered by search warrant.
That's correct.
And we've already established that Jennifer Crumbley knew how to delete. In fact, she did delete certain messages.
Correct.
All right. And one message in particular she deleted from to Kira Pennick was that
No, my
picture
package has not
of
yet
this
arrived.
drug.
Correct.
I think.
And speaking of that exhibit between Jennifer Crumbley and Kira Pennick, that's People's 130. In those
No.
exhibits,
It's still 4 stops away. It's going to be a while,
there's about
guys.
28 pictures. They're screenshots. So there are many communications regarding her horses.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Horses
So
are good.
One of the first things she does after the meeting,
Save a
is
horse,
say,
ride a
and after
cowboy.
the shooting, rather, is I won't be able to make it there tonight. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. I can look it up.
Take a look. And tell us the time that came in too. You know what? I'll pull it up for you.
Yeah, I don't see it real quick.
That's all right, I'll pull it up for you. "2:36 p.m. Kira, I won't be there tonight." Okay, it's on the screen.
Okay.
That's part of Exhibit 130. And that is, the shooting ended at 1 p.m., so that's an hour and 36 minutes after he was taken into custody.
Correct. I see it now. Yes.
That's 6 minutes after she arrived home from the substation, after she was brought there,
Correct.
and that's the last time she saw her son.
Correct.
6 minutes after. Okay. So you were asked about a lot of questions about this Facebook chat here, including a particular message where Jennifer says, I wish there had been some kind of warnings.
Correct.
Okay.
Remember that?
But she sent this to Kira, and this is the picture where he said, help me, with the picture of, where he wrote, help me, with the picture of the firearm.
Correct.
Okay, and she deleted that, though. She later on deleted that particular text that she sent to Kira.
Correct.
Now, you were asked a lot of questions about this big stack of these messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley. Do you remember those questions from counsel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you were asked if there were certain messages about any message that Jennifer had about my son's going to shoot up the school, things like that.
I remember that, yes.
Okay. You have had a chance to review some of those messages, or all of those messages.
Yes.
Okay. And was there anything in the messages indicating they were going to take him to see a therapist?
No, there was not.
Anything in there indicating they were worried and they wanted to take him to see a psychiatrist?
No, there was not.
Was there any time they tried to set up any mental health counseling?
No.
In the phone logs or text messages from the period after the school meeting till the shooting, were there any indications that they researched any mental health professionals?
No, there was not.
Did they call any counseling offices?
No, they
Did
did
they
not.
call any psychiatrists?
No.
I'd like you just referring to that message, and Judge, for the record, again, I'd like to omit the entire thread that's Exhibit 423. That's the entire Facebook thread between James and Jennifer Crumbley. I'd like to have that available for the jury if they want to look at that.
Your Honor, I would have no objection to that as long as we redact the things that this court's already deemed inadmissible. That would be fine.
Okay, I don't recall specifically what those are, but if there's already been a ruling and things have been redacted, then I would like those taken out.
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly. Sir, if you could, referring to that, what would be Exhibit 423, contrast for the jury, please, the amount of time and messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley regarding their horses with their messages regarding their son.
Your Honor, I would object. There needs to be a foundation that he can even determine this or has data to support this.
Sure.
Did you look at the messages?
I looked at the message, yes.
Okay. Are you able to contrast the amount of time and messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley regarding their horses
Your
versus
Honor,
their
I would
son?
object. This is misleading and speculative, and
It's-
there's been lots of talk about things that have been deleted, that we don't have all the messages. So I would object, Your Honor.
Judge, for the record, the point is that counsel asked, is there any evidence of when
Okay.
this witness has already testified to things are deleted, and he's going to testify what's actually on thread.
Okay, I'm eating your dust a little bit here. Okay, first of all, you want 423 text messages between,
Facebook messages.
Facebook messages between Mr. and Mrs. Crumley admitted in the redacted form. I'm going to ask that the redacted form be verified by Ms. Smith, and then I'll admit 423 because you do not object.
Thank you.
Okay, you want him to ask him, he's going to be estimating, obviously.
I'm asking for an estimation.
And, Your Honor, I was not allowed to ask his interpretation of topics or words that were in there. And so for the prosecutor to ask this question, that's asking him to interpret how often they're talking about various topics. That's the same kind of question I was asking, and I was prohibited from asking.
Well,
So
you asked him to interpret something that someone said or what they thought, which
I-
you can't do.
I also asked questions about, in those text messages, there was nothing about, I believe our son could be a shooter. And that was objected to, and he wasn't
No,
able to.
he answered.
There were other questions along the same lines where I was not able to talk about
No,
the
he
top.
answered that there were no communications like that. He answered that. Now, if you had another example, he reviewed all of these the text messages. He also said some were deleted. He looked at the Facebook, right?
423 is going to be admitted, so it can be argued later. I will withdraw my objection.
Okay.
Could you contrast for us the amount of messages between James and Jennifer Crumbley regarding their horses with the messages regarding their son?
I would say there was a vast majority of just discussing their horses and putting ointments on their legs and getting the vets to see them. If I had to put a number on it, it'd be upwards of 75–80% of the conversation.
Over what period of time, if you know?
With that volume right there.
Oh, okay. When does that start and when does it end?
It's early in 2021.
Early 2020. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Now, what about the percentage of time expressing concern over their sons?
Up
Your
until,
Honor, I object. This is speculation, and there's no way he doesn't have data on this.
Do you have data on this?
just the conversation after the pictures were sent, that I drew on the math paper, and there's a couple other conversations about him having a headache and that, but other than that, I can't remember any more conversations.
So I have some data.
You're gonna make us listen to data?
No, well, this is just a one question. Does this sound right to you that,
Your Honor, I object to leading this witness into this. If he has data, he can testify about it. If he doesn't have data, this is
Judge,
inappropriate.
people are entitled to lean
That's
into
not a
what?
legal question.
Okay.
Anytime this day wants to end will be fine.
Name search, because it's a PDF, right? So you can do a name search.
All right, will people be really mad if I cut this off? Because I don't think I can wait the
There's
remainder of 20
some. You
minutes.
find how many times there's some.
I've tuned out.
That's correct.
Okay. And if you were to do
So can we just end the 20 minutes early, please? Because I'm tired. It's been a long day, and I'm tired. So can we just end this 20 minutes early, please? All right, let's do that. All right, I'm gonna end because I gave it as long as I could. I really did, but it's been a lot. All right, so Uncivil Law gives up. Uncivil Law have found his limit. All right, I'm gonna take a brief break for myself, and then I'm probably gonna go to the gym and go from there. So yeah. All right, we'll see you guys next time. I've been